Chapter 928. Speaking of this, Dustless's tone suddenly stagnated and he immediately sneered. They both have a common enemy, which is me. Red Hair Shanks and Drago are not people who wait for death. It's natural for them to choose another way out. It's normal for them to collude with each other to deal with me. The conspiracy of Drago and Red Hair Shanks, and even other people participated in it, was also within Dustless's expectations. No one would sit still and wait for death. It was normal for them to even give up their grudges and work together with Blackbeard in the past. There was no eternal grudge, only eternal interest. Blackbeard also regarded Dustless as his biggest enemy, so it was normal for them to go together. In fact, as Dustless thought, Blackbeard and Red Hair Shanks had contact during this period. Do you think you can stop me by joining forces? It's as ridiculous as the sun rising from the west tomorrow. Gao Yang's mouth showed contempt, and Dustless sneered at the approach of Yonko for emperors and the Revolutionary Army. It's all young master's fault. Hancock rolled her eyes and complained. If she was Red Hair Shanks, Monchi di Drago and others, she would choose the same approach. After all, with a godlike enemy, there was no other way but to join forces. That's because they brought it upon themselves. This is the price of going against me. Dustless's murderous intent was exposed, and his whole body was filled with a dangerous aura. His pair of deep eyes instantly became as cold as a beast. Red Hair Shanks opposed me more than 10 years ago. Later I cut off his arm. I thought that kid would be more sensible, but now it seems that he didn't realize his shortcomings. Instead he became even more aggressive. Since he was so insensible, Dustless could only crush him. By the way, young master, as if thinking of something, Hancock frowned. A few days ago Clive suddenly visited and you happened to be away from Mariehua. Dustless was confused when he heard that. He scratched his head and didn't remember that he knew this person. Then he asked blankly, I don't seem to have any connection with this person, especially since there is a holy behind her name. He should be a celestial dragon. I don't have such a person. Suddenly, a beautiful golden figure appeared in his mind. Wuxian suddenly thought of his fiancée of more than 10 years. Long golden hair cascaded down his back like a waterfall. His eyes were pure and flawless like gems. His perfect face was like a masterpiece of the heavens, a work of the gods. He was wearing a slender holy sword and his aura was noble and pure. Every inch of his body was abnormally perfect. That's strange. Why did she suddenly come looking for me? It's been more than 10 years. I thought that Clea had already died. Also, she hasn't come looking for me for more than 10 years. I'm afraid that she's already old. Dustless waved his hand and said in annoyance, tell her not to look for me in the future. Anyway, the two of them didn't have any connection. They had only met once and Dustless almost killed her at that time. There was no need to think about the relationship between the two of them. Young master, you worry too much. Clea, holy, is the same as the young man. Her appearance hasn't deteriorated. She still maintains her original appearance. Hancock smiled mysteriously. Just her. Dustless had a strange expression on his face when he heard that. It wasn't that he looked down on her. That girl named Clea had the strength of a general. At most she was in the category of Kaido and the others. In the eyes of the world she was strong enough, but it was impossible for her to stay young forever. Forget it. No matter what, don't ask her to look for me in the future. Otherwise I won't be polite. Dustless didn't have a good impression of that Clea, holy. He still clearly remembered that she not only broke into Dustless's bedroom, but also criticized Dustless's writing. And that woman is very strange. She doesn't seem to belong to the human race. I'm not interested in that kind of person. Dustless shivered unnaturally. What if a toad turned into a human and he became her fiancé? Dustless shivered thinking about it. Ta-ta-ta. Suddenly there were messy footsteps in the corridor. Kalfa. Staring at Kalfa who suddenly appeared, Dustless was surprised. Before he arranged for Kalfa to collect information. Now that White Zetsu betrayed them, all the information fell on Kalfa's head. The leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dorag and Shanks met. It seems that there is also Marshal Dietich. Kalfa's tone was extremely uncalm. This was equivalent to 3 Yonko for emperors, teaming up. It has nothing to do with me. This should be the Marine's concern. It's not our turn to care. Dustless chuckled. He was unusually calm. Then he added, If the three of them can team up and come to Dressrosa to die, that would be the best. Dressrosa, with its beautiful scenery, was very suitable to be the tomb of the Yonko 4 emperors. Master, don't dream about it. Hancock complained. Dustless smiled mysteriously. No, this is not a dream. Maybe it won't be long before the Yonko 4 emperors come to Dressrosa to die. On an island in the New World there were 3 warships docked at the port. The warships didn't have any flags and the power they belonged to was unknown. But the people who came down from them belonged to the people who could make the world tremble. The leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dorag Sabo, the current Yonko 4 emperors, Shanks, Blackbeard, and an unexpected figure, Uchiha Madara. Chapter 929. The leader of the Revolutionary Army, Durag Sabo, the current Yonko, Shanks, Blackbeard, and an unexpected figure, Tendo Uchiha Madara. A few days ago, Dustless accidentally controlled Uchiha Madara to encounter Shanks. As a result, this guy happened to say something about an alliance to deal with the huge crisis brought by the Marine. Curious, Dustless also readily agreed. That's why today's meeting was held. Why is this guy in this meeting? I didn't get any notice in advance. In the temporary building, Blackbeard took the opportunity to attack Uchiha Madara. His body was full of high density and terrifying hostility. He didn't have a good impression of Uchiha Madara. Oh. You didn't get any notice in advance, but I knew it a long time ago. You're just an insignificant person. Hearing this, Uchiha Madara smiled, giving people a feeling of being quite approachable. But in Blackbeard's ears, it was particularly harsh. I'm also very surprised. Uchiha Madara stared at Blackbeard with a playful gaze and immediately sneered, showing an expression of shame. I didn't expect to meet a cat or a dog like you, bad luck. Hearing this, Blackbeard's old face twitched. He naturally understood what Uchiha Madara meant. A few years ago he was defeated by Uchiha Madara. And the battle was almost one-sided. Blackbeard was crushed and beaten by Uchiha Madara. At that time he was like a baby in swaddling clothes without any power to fight back. The two sides were not in the same dimension at all. I'm not what I used to be. After that, Blackbeard released an awe-inspiring and overbearing momentum, and the whole person's momentum was monstrous. Boom. Outside the room, even if he didn't have Haushiku Haki at this moment, endless darkness spewed out from his body, covering the sky and the earth, and the void within a radius of tens of kilometers was dim. It wasn't just that. The boundless horizon was covered in cracks and it was riddled with holes. It was a complete mess. The cracks spread out without any pattern, and it seemed as if they were about to swallow the entire sky. The ability of Tremor Fruit, Blackbeard obviously practiced to the extreme. In the past 2 years he also made rapid progress. Bang. 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 The cold wind suddenly hit and Blackbeard's momentum shattered the window. Not only that, the whole earth and the house swayed with his frequency. Do you want to fight? Uchiha Madara asked indifferently with a cold smile on his face. His casual words ignited the flames in Blackbeard's heart. His entire being was like a barrel of gunpowder that had been ignited, filled with explosive danger. Blackbeard wasn't an idiot. From this casual sentence he knew that he was being looked down upon by this guy again. Since becoming a Yonko, he has always been arrogant. This was the first time he was ridiculed. This old thing will never amount to anything great. In the end he can only be one of the 4 emperors. Choose Uchiha Madara. Dustless, Blackbeard, and Blackbeard's has made no progress in other. Blackbeard, if you want to fight I have no right to stop it, but I will stand on his side. Pointing to Uchiha Madara, Red Hair Shanks said very wisely. Me too, I will stand on his side. Taking a deep look at Red Hair Shanks, the reticent Durag said. You want to work together to deal with me? Blackbeard vomited blood and cursed in his heart. He was also a smart person and he naturally knew what this meant. Not only Uchiha Madara looked down on him, but Durag and Red Hair Shanks also looked down on him. In the troubled world, the strong are respected, and the two of them turned to Uchiha Madara because they agreed that Uchiha Madara was stronger than Blackbeard. Otherwise, Red Hair Shanks and Durag may have teamed up with Blackbeard to deal with Uchiha Madara. In the end, in this world the strong people have the final say, and in the end they think that Uchiha Madara has a better future. It's all to deal with the Marine. It's not too late to talk about personal grievances later. Knocking lightly on the table, Durag's voice was soft but full of reason. Giving Uchiha Madara a fierce look, the angry Blackbeard restrained his anger. Even if Durag and Red Hair Shanks really scared him, Blackbeard didn't dare to act rashly. You only have one life, and if you lose the bet, it's gone. Yes, this time I came up to discuss how to deal with Royce South. Dustless, who was far away in Dressrosa, laughed and continued to control Uchiha Madara. I recently got information that Royce South is in Dressrosa. We should ambush him immediately. Otherwise, when he returns to the Marine headquarters or Mariehua, it will be difficult to kill him. That's right, this is indeed an opportunity. The Marine headquarters is full of strong people, and Mariehua is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Blackbeard rarely agreed with Uchiha Madara's point of view, bowing his head and agreeing. Being beaten by Dustless in succession has become his shadow, and this thorn in his flesh must be pulled out. Chapter 930. Shanks and Durag looked at each other and could see the cautiousness and hesitation in each other's eyes. They both felt like they were playing with fire. Although Dustless is only an admiral, his strength is obvious to all, far beyond the level of an admiral. Even far beyond the Yonko 4 emperors. After all, Dustless played Whitebeard, who is recognized as the strongest man in the end. Even some pirates in the New World jokingly said that Dustless is God in a marine cape. He has become an absolute existence. Perhaps there is some exaggeration, but Shanks and Durag agree that although this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, attacking rashly will definitely hurt them. I also firmly oppose it. At this moment, a powerful voice suddenly came, and a young man with a long sword and a hat suddenly appeared, looking at Uchiha Madara and Blackbeard with dissatisfaction. I know the strength of Royce South, it is unfathomable, and it is the territory of Doflamingo. Don't underestimate that Shichibukai, he is not easy to deal with. The nickname of Sea Rogue is not for nothing. The man said vigilantly, and when he mentioned Doflamingo, his eyes flashed with hatred. This remark immediately attracted the agreement of Shanks and Durag. And even Blackbeard, who advocated the attack, was slightly prepared. Dressrosa has been run by Doflamingo for many years, and it has long become a tiger's den. This little guy actually came to join in the fun. Dustless of Dressrosa frowned and immediately spat out cold air. There is a road to heaven but you don't take it, and there is no door to hell but you throw yourself into it. It seems that if I don't kill him, I will not succeed in fooling them to go to Dressrosa to die. I wanted to send you to Infinite Tsukuyami to dream, but since you want to die early, I will fulfill your wish. Uchiha Madara's calm eyes flashed, exuding a red light and coldness, and he stared at the young man with a hat, Telejaffer Law. His body finally turned into a shadow and rushed out. Phew. Tendo Uchiha Madara's attack shocked everyone. The scene was dead silent. Everyone looked at Uchiha Madara with surprise. Of course, there are some who have sharp eyes and quick hands. Whoosh. A black shadow followed closely behind him and rushed out at high speed. Clang. A roar sounded, and suddenly two figures flashed on the empty ground in front of Law. One of them stopped Uchiha Madara's attack. Shanks, what do you mean by this? Do you want to be my enemy? Madara asked as he increased the force in his hand and forced Shanks back a step or two. The red-haired Shanks frowned slightly and immediately said without backing down, Law is a guest. I invited not only him but also the other Shichibukai. As Akagami's voice fell, a man dressed as a clown with a huge red nose also walked in. It was Buggy, one of the current Shichibukai. This group of bastards, they are indeed not good people. Red Shersons, red Shanks is so shameless, he red Shanks Rual Shanks. His heart is terrible. Our order is to overthrow the world government, not to deal with a marine admiral. Seeing everyone's eyebrows pulled on Dustless, Durag had to stand up and say his point of view. Hearing this, Red Hair Shanks smiled calmly and said, You may not know that Louis South is a marine admiral, and he also has the identity of a celestial dragon. It is natural for the Revolutionary Army to deal with him. After thinking about it, Durag nodded silently. Get out of my way, I must kill this kid. Uchiha Madara's killing intent soared to the sky, and a powerful momentum broke out of his body, making people breathless. He is our ally. Shanks strengthened his tone and refused to back down. Law was invited by him. If he killed him, where would his face go? Uchiha Madara's refusal to back down made him feel extremely puzzled and asked, If you want to kill someone, at least give everyone a suitable reason. Everyone looked at Tendo Uchiha Madara with recognition. This? Dressrosa's dustless stagnated and his eyes changed rapidly. He scratched his head and couldn't think of a suitable reason. At the moment, the chakra in his body erupted and he planned to force law, but a light suddenly appeared in his mind. This kid, he has always been Doflamingo's subordinate. He must have been sent by Doflamingo to spy on us. Regardless of the consequences, Uchiha Madara's words were filled with dirty water. Hearing this, Law's thoughts were obviously messed up. He was speechless and there was a brief silence. After a while he immediately explained, I used to be Doflamingo's subordinate but Pucci. The cold light came like the speed of light, and in the blink of an eye, Law's chest was easily crushed and his heart was crushed in one fell swoop. It turned out to be him. Uchiha Madara was also surprised to see the figure behind Law. He didn't expect that he would kill Law. Chapter 931. Not only was Tendo Uchiha Madara stunned, Red Hair Shanks and Blackbeard were also very surprised. Looking at the huge bloody hole in Law's chest and the shattered heart, everyone was stunned. I'm sorry, young man. Although your name also has D in it and you even saved that silly boy Luffy during the War of the Best, please forgive me. As for the reason for killing you, Royce South's strength is beyond imagination. Maybe you were tampered with by him but you still don't know it. I used to be the same. The one who gave Law a fatal blow and destroyed his heart in one fell swoop. Monchi de Dorag, Luffy's biological father. This is not fair. Law, who reacted, roared loudly, looking at the dagger that was inserted into his chest. He looked back and stared at Dorag, whose face was full of guilt, and roared loudly, if it was your son today, don't tell me that you would do the same. After that, Law's pupils dilated to the largest extent in his life. As long as Dorag was lying, he would be able to see it. Even if it was Luffy standing in front of me, I would not hesitate to raise the butcher's knife. Dorag's tone was very firm and he said unwaveringly, what we are carrying is the whole world. Even if it's my son, if he's suspected of being in cahoots with Royce South or Doflamingo, I'll still kill him without hesitation. These cold-blooded and ruthless words shocked everyone by Dorag's decisiveness. Cold-blooded animal. Seeing this unexpected scene, Dustless, who was far away in Dressrosa, sighed. Although he could understand Dorag's indifference and impartiality as a leader, especially in this important period, but if it was Dustless he might not be able to do it. However, I have to thank Dorag for helping me get rid of this eyesore. Since you didn't hesitate to offend Red Hair Shanks to help me, hee. When I release the infinite Tsukuyami, I will make you the king of the world as a token of my gratitude. Dustless smiled sinisterly. I curse you, despicable and shameless bastard, to be torn into pieces. And you do. Aware of the rapid loss of vitality, Law roared angrily and unwillingly. He didn't expect to be killed so inexplicably. He still had a lot of dreams to fulfill. If you're dead, then you're dead. Why are you still struggling? It's hard to even leave your corpse intact. He strode forward and took out an extremely sharp kunai. A cold light splashed in the void. Then Luo Jian's head was separated from his body. He was killed like a dog. This brat. I helped you get rid of your enemy, Doflamingo, and avenge your most respected Corazon. Yet not only are you not grateful to me, you're even cursing me. You deserve this fate. Dustless slandered him. This bastard was also courting death. This luxurious banquet originally did not have a stage that belonged to him. Since he wanted to join in, Dustless could only send him to heaven in advance. Hey, this guy is the Shichibukai. The government can be our informant. His strength is also good. He's a powerful fighting force. Looking at Law, who was completely dead, Red Hair Shank sighed. This person has died and it's impossible for him to fall out with Dorag and Tendo Uchiha Madara. I can only hope that he has a connection with the dangerous man Doflamingo. Dorag said with a blank expression. At the same time he calmly returned to his original position as if nothing had happened. Yes. Tendo Uchiha Madara also echoed and deliberately raised his voice to remind. Even if spying information, isn't there still the Shichibukai? After Uchiha Madara's reminder, everyone's eyes looked at the man behind Red Hair Shanks. They were all surprised, thinking of his identity and past experience, and then nodded. The focus of several pairs of eyes was the clown Buggy. I still don't agree with attacking Dressrosa. Royce South, Dustless, and Doflamingo are too dangerous. If we attack rashly we will automatically die. Dorag said very stubbornly. As the leader of the revolutionary army he has been hiding for so many years, and he can't suddenly expose himself like this. Red Hair Shanks also nodded immediately. This group of guys. It seems that if we don't make some movements, it's impossible to make them take the initiative to die. Looking at several people Tendo Uchiha Madara thought. Monchidi, Dorag and Red Hair Shanks are the kind of people who are extremely careful. It's impossible to make them die without risking anything. Being too strong is also a sin. Dustless, who was far away in Dressrosa, sighed with deep helplessness. Sometimes being too strong is indeed a sin. Your words are too unfair to those who have been killed by you. If Whitebeard knows, he will definitely jump out of hell to find trouble with you, young master. Hancock, who has been standing beside Dustless, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Dustless's words were really too hurtful. Ta! The sound of hurried footsteps suddenly sounded. Uchiha Madara raised his eyes and looked at the pirates rushing over. After seeing the things on their bodies, he breathed a sigh of relief, feeling as if the clouds were lifted and the sky was clear. In the end, no matter how they change, it seems that they can't escape my control. Chapter 932. A man with a flattering face, a little famous, one of the members of the Blackbeard pirates, Balsas. Dustless recognized him. In the future he was the one who said that he would rob Ace's relic, the flame fruit, from Luffy. Now, even if I don't want to go to Dressrosa, I have to walk right into the trap. With a faint smile, Tendo Uchiha Madara sat back in his seat. Even if he was just a corpse, he was still leisurely sipping his tea. Quietly looking at the newspaper in Balsa's hand, Uchiha Madara's face flashed with relief. Captain, oh no, Admiral Titch. Balsa's face was tangled. Since Blackbeard took the position of Yonko for emperors, and inherited the legacy of the former Whitebeard, he disliked the nickname of Blackbeard, and called himself Admiral. What's the point of being so reckless? Blackbeard glared at Balsas with dissatisfaction. He felt extremely embarrassed. Right now there were 3 Yonko for emperors gathered here, including himself. However, this brat's expression was as if he had seen a ghost. He had thrown his face in front of his archenemy Red Hair Shanks. Maybe you're more surprised than Balsas. Looking at Blackbeard playfully, Uchiha Madara continued to drink alone. Just as Uchiha Madara guessed, after receiving the newspaper in Balsa's hand, Blackbeard's face was dull, his rough mouth wide enough to stuff a fist. That bastard Doflamingo. Is he crazy? Staring at the newspaper, Blackbeard's eyes were bloodshot and almost fell out. After confirming that he wasn't dizzy from old age, he almost roared. His sharp and numb voice was quite like a eunuch's. Seeing Blackbeard lose his composure, Shanks and Durag squeezed their faces together, puzzled. It must be explosive news to make Whitebeard, one of the Yonko for emperors, lose his composure. Out of curiosity they also picked up the extra newspaper, and so did Buggy. It's okay if you don't read the content of the newspaper, but as soon as you read it your expressions were all petrified. Their trembling arms grabbed the newspaper and even tore it uncontrollably. Don't be surprised. Uchiha Madara laughed contemptuously. He immediately picked up the newspaper and glanced at it, pretending to be surprised. That idiot Doflamingo actually used the ancient weapon Pluto as the reward for the arena champion? These words were like water ripples that brushed past everyone's ears. He raised his voice on purpose. We should immediately head to Dressrosa and snatch the Pluto design blueprint. The future revolution requires the protection of a world-destroying weapon like the Pluto. Commander Titch, send troops to wipe out Dressrosa of Doflamingo. I'm willing to be the vanguard. The position of the king of the world is right in front of us. Shanks, we must obtain the Hades blueprint. Once we create the ancient weapon we can take revenge and destroy that despicable demon, Lewis Mail. The appearance of Pluton's blueprint ignited the emotions of all the pirates. Their faces were full of fanaticism and yearning. They couldn't wait to grow wings and flatten Dressrosa. The crew of the Akagami Red Hair pirates and the Blackbeard pirates, including the Revolutionary Army cadres brought by Dorag, all encouraged their bosses to seize the Pluto design blueprint. In this way you have to go even if you don't want to. With a smile, Uchiha Madara closed his eyes comfortably. This group of people had no right to choose. From the beginning they were destined to be led by the nose. Conspiracy, this must be a conspiracy. Doflamingo can't take out this kind of thing for no reason. I remember that kid. He is the most cunning. There must be a problem. Yes, this blueprint must be fake. He is the Shichibukai. He must have colluded with the government to trap us. Without even thinking about it, he directly rejected the Pluto design blueprint in the newspaper. And the one who denied it was Blackbeard, who looked like he had seen a ghost. The data doesn't seem to be fake. If this is true, Akagami, red hair, murmured after careful confirmation, revealing a deep greed and covetousness in his words. Just like what his vice-captain Ben Beckman had said after obtaining Pluto and creating it, the Navy government and Lois Nandon would be nothing but a joke. One shot of destruction. Although I don't know if it is Pluto's design blueprint, one thing is certain. This is definitely an unprecedented super battleship design blueprint. The speaker was the Revolutionary Army Senior brought by Dorag. The Revolutionary Army is different from the poor pirates. In recent years they have plundered many professional shipbuilding masters. You have a little vision. Dustless, who was far away in Dressrosa, was relieved. He was really afraid that this group of bumpkins wouldn't recognize it. After all, it is a legendary weapon. So what? I can be sure that this is a conspiracy. Blackbeard still sneered. Such a superficial plan is too obvious. I know it may be a conspiracy. Dorag and Shank's faces were extremely ugly. There was no need to think about it. Doflamingo took out the Pluto design blueprint. But what can they do? Can they not go if it is a conspiracy? Obviously not, in case the world government gets it. Akagami, red hair, and Dorag, red hair, were pale. Even if they knew that this was a conspiracy, they had to go. Once the world government gets Pluto's design, they will definitely be destroyed. That kid is so good at playing. Blackbeard, who had figured it out, vomited blood. His messy hair was like a bird's nest with crows entrenched in it. This was an open conspiracy from beginning to end. After not seeing each other for a while, Doflamingo's methods of scheming had improved by leaps and bounds. But no one knows that Doflamingo at this moment has been made one of the 6 paths by Dustless. Chapter 933. Blackbeard was tense and experienced, and he spat out hot air waves from his nostrils. He tried to find a reasonable explanation to comfort himself, but he couldn't find an excuse after thinking for a long time. Unable to be comforted, he was angry and felt worse than being slapped a few times. The dignified Yonko for emperors was schemed against by a Shichibukai for the time being. Even if he knew that this was a trap, he still insisted on going in. The flame of grievance almost burned his head. That bastard is smarter than before. He set up a trap that even if we knew it was a conspiracy, we still had to go into it. Damn Doflamingo. Red hair Shanks's face was also extremely ugly. There were blue veins on both sides of his forehead, and his iron fists were clenched tightly. It doesn't matter if he is schemed against by other Yonko for emperors. Anyway, everyone is at the same level and he can't fight back. But he was inexplicably slapped by Doflamingo and he couldn't fight back. Not only that, but he was also led by the nose by him. This has exceeded the limit of what he can tolerate. You are just part of my plan. The actors are far from enough. You only represent one piece in the Revolutionary Army. You can only be regarded as the second and third protagonist. The first protagonist is not you. Through the sight of Uchiha Madara, Dustless and Dressrosa smiled calmly. Pluton can attract the attention of forces all over the world, and one piece in the Revolutionary Army are only part of it. Not only the few of us, but those forces who know the value of the King of Hell will also rush to Dressrosa and obtain the King of Hell in the world. Who can resist such temptation? You can't, I can't, the whole world can't. Mondidi, Dorag said heavily, and sweat stains came out of his temples. The Gorosei, 5 elder stars, of the world government, including the Marine, will certainly not be able to escape the temptation of Pluton. They should take out all their high-end battle power and fight back. It is impossible for Pluton's design to fall into our hands. Suddenly rolling his eyes, Drago's eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. That bastard Doflamingo, he's determined to drag the whole world down with him. No matter who gets the Pluto blueprint, they will suffer a great loss. You're right. Tendo Uchiha Madara agreed and immediately put on a cautious expression. Don't forget that the celestial dragon named Louis South is still in Dressrosa. If we want to take Pluton, we will have to fight him. We must bring all the elites to barely defeat him. It's true that all the elite pirates should be concentrated. When they confront each other, they are bound to encounter the Marines and even the world government. Maybe even the Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, will personally take action. Everyone nodded and agreed with Uchiha Madara's words. In the face of a godlike enemy, they must come up with a godlike formation to deal with it. Of course, no one could understand the meaning behind Uchiha Madara's words. Moreover, even if it's a trap, so what? After obtaining the Pluto's design blueprint, the history of the entire world will be written by us. Uchiha Madara's words led everyone to fall into a real dream. In a trance, they saw the evil rule that destroyed the world government, standing at the top of the world and being praised by all living beings. Dorag and the others who came back to their senses looked at each other. In this case, it's better to fight with all their strength. These troublesome ants have finally been dealt with. Dustless, who was far away in Dressrosa, breathed a sigh of relief. It was really a laborious thing to gather them together. First, I will use Pluton to kill the most threatening group of people, and then I will use Infinite Tsukuyomi to finish it off. Then I will use Chakra to connect all the humans to the tree. In this way, it should be no problem to bear new Chakra fruits. Even if they can't reach the same level as me, it should be no problem to prolong their life and keep their youth forever. Recalling the girls in the system, Dustless sighed a little tiredly. After working so hard for so many years, in the end it was all for them. Now that everything is about to end, the shackles that have always been with him are gone, and it's particularly comfortable. As for the guilt of Infinite Tsukuyomi, bringing the whole world into the Genjutsu world, Dustless doesn't have this feeling. Being oppressed by pirates is oppressing, being exploited by the world government is still being exploited anyway, it's just a distorted world. In this case, it's better to go to the dream world together and be their ideal selves. They should thank me, the creator. In the end, Dustless came to such a conclusion. Following Dressrosa's announcement that the final victor of the arena would receive the Hades design, the people of the entire world were like sharks that had smelled blood, rushing to Dressrosa one after another. Just the design blueprint ignited the emotions of the whole world. The forces that knew what Pluton was naturally couldn't wait, and the ignorant people who didn't know what Pluton was laughed at. In short, the whole world was shocked by the sudden movement of Doflamingo. At this moment, a major event happened in the Marine headquarters. The Marine generals were also divided into 2 factions. At first glance, there seemed to be signs of division. Chapter 934. The Marine, as the world's largest organization, received the news earlier than the Yonko 4 emperors, and held an emergency meeting for the first time. Because of the special reasons this time, only the high-level leaders with real power were gathered. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After getting Pluton's design, it's not a problem to build it with the government's ability. We can use Pluton to end the heir of the great pirate. We must rush to Dressrosa. I don't need to think about it to know that this is a conspiracy. Who would call out such a precious thing like Pluton's design? The Marine can just watch the fire from the shore and calmly watch the pirates fighting over the blueprints kill each other. This old man firmly does not agree to mobilize all forces to attack Dressrosa. Within a few hours, the meeting of the Marine headquarters was centered around these 2 topics. The one who agreed to attack Dressrosa was naturally the radical Akainu Sakazuki, and the one who was against it was Admiral Fujitora, who was not weak. Fujitora, make it clear to me that the Marine Fleet Admiral is Sakazuki, not Fujitora. Hot magma rose from his hand and turned the cigar into ashes. Akainu sat in the seat that used to belong to Sengoku. After being the fleet admiral for a while, he didn't feel the slightest difference. Instead, he felt more and more headache. Especially the admiral in front of him, who often fought with Akainu. The contradiction between the 2 sides was no less than Akainu and Akiji. Fujitora was even more excessive than Akiji. He didn't care about the fleet admiral's face and often stood up to disgust him. My eyes are blind, but my heart is not blind. I know that the fleet admiral is Sakazuki, Fujitora said in a calm tone, and immediately a sentence directly made Akainu tremble. If I were the fleet admiral, you would have been kicked out of the Marine, and it would not be your turn to order people around. Hearing this, Akainu's old face turned black, and he immediately took a deep breath and tightly suppressed the flames in his chest. First, the current situation is special and he can't directly remove the position of Admiral Fujitora. Second, he has the support of Sengoku, Air and veteran marines like Garp. He often goes against Akainu without scruples. Sakazuki attacking Dressrosa rashly is a risky move. You know the nature of Doflamingo. Fujitora lowered his voice and lowered his posture. Akainu is also a Marine Fleet Admiral and the most basic face has to be given. What a joke. Akainu sneered at this. What's the use of taking risks? So what if it was a trap? Do you want to watch Pluton's design fall into the hands of the pirates? There is news that the pirate leaders of the New World, the Yonko Four Emperors, are showing signs of joining forces. If we are late, the Pluton design blueprint will be theirs. In the future, the New World will not have a place for the Navy. The Marine admirals nodded silently. Akainu's words were not alarmist. If the Marine gets Pluton's design, waiting for Pluton to be born in the future, the Marine and the world government will be the first unlucky ones. But this is Doflamingo's scheme. If we go, we will definitely fall into his trap. Fujitora smiled and argued. Even an idiot could see that this was a huge trap. Doflamingo had dug a deep pit. The Marines clearly knew that this was a trick, but they still jumped in without hesitation. It was really a brainless behavior. That makes sense. There are also many Marine generals who think that Fujitora is right. The two of you, please don't argue. The old voice stopped the two quarreling men and was surprisingly useful. Akainu and Fujitora immediately stopped the war of words. Looking closely, it was Vice Admiral Tsuru, the most senior Marine at present. This kind of thing has made a lot of noise all over the world. The Pluton design blueprint has exceeded the scope of Marines management. In fact, it is useless for us to discuss such a big matter. We can't make the decision at all. The right to speak is not in our hands. The five of Mariehua are probably thinking about how to deal with it now. I believe that it won't be long before their orders will be passed to us, so there is no need to talk about quarreling. From beginning to end, we Marines don't have the final say. After saying a lot of words in a row, Vice Admiral Tsuru was also a little tired. Looking at Akainu and Fujitora, Vice Admiral Tsuru's old face was gloomy. It was extremely difficult for the two to sit quietly together and talk about plans, let alone cooperate. Both sides were stubborn and aggressive at the same time, and no one was willing to admit defeat, causing the current embarrassing situation of the Marines. The entire Marine was faintly divided into two factions. Then wait for the call from above. Akainu could only swallow the flames in his stomach. If he could, he would like to beat Fujitora now. This old guy is really annoying. This kind of scene is not the first or second time. Every time he makes the fleet admiral embarrassed. Sometimes he even becomes the target of public criticism. He doesn't have the quality of an admiral at all. Then wait for the call from Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars. Fujitora heard this and rested silently. Rumble. About half an hour later, the black den mushi, which had remained silent, suddenly rang. This was usually used to contact Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars. Sakazuki, it's me. On the other side of the den mushi, there was a powerful voice of one of the Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars. Akainu heard this and opened his mouth. When he was about to ask the Marine what to do, the news from den mushi shocked him. Not only Akainu, but also Fujitora, who was still angry, and Vice Admiral Tsuru, including other Marine Vice Admirals, also had the same expression. Chapter 935. A group of Marines was directly petrified, their eyes widened, and their faces were full of disbelief. Even Vice Admiral Tsuru, who was usually the calmest, had a dreamy expression. Even if it wasn't for the black den mushi and the voice of Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, she would have thought that this was someone else's pretense. Well, is there any problem? On the other side, Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, heard that Akainu didn't answer for a long time and asked with a little doubt. Akainu looked stiff and looked around, and all the Marines nodded. There is no problem in arresting Royce South. But a Marine admiral was inexplicably arrested. If you don't give a suitable reason, it will be difficult to convince the Marines. That guy killed Whitebeard during the War of the Best, and was called a hero by the entire Marine. There are many people who admire him inside the Marine. Akainu said awkwardly. Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, is simply too much. The content of the den mushi is the arrest of the current Marine Admiral Royce South. Even Akainu, who has a will like steel, is dizzy at this moment. Maybe this may directly pull the whole world into the abyss. Royce South, isn't that guy a celestial dragon? Why does the government want to arrest him? Fujitora asked with deep confusion in his words. Arresting a powerful celestial dragon for no reason, he instinctively felt that something was wrong. Reason? This kind of thing is already known to the whole world. Gorosei, 5 elder stars. On the opposite side of the Den Mushi couldn't suppress the flame. Like an angry lion he roared loudly. The black hand behind the scenes supporting Doflamingo is Royce South. Hearing this, all the Marines' faces turned sharply. They all clenched their fists and looked extremely dignified. The tone of Gorosei, 5 elder stars, has no room for negotiation. This reason can indeed arrest Dustless. But Akainu was still frowning. After listening to the explanation of Gorosei, 5 elder stars, his whole person was not relaxed but became more and more deep. The status of celestial dragons is higher than Gorosei, 5 elder stars. Even if Royce South is arrested, it will not be their turn. It is the CP0 who is looking for trouble with Royce South. What does it have to do with Gorosei, 5 elder stars? This is obviously overstepping their authority and meddling in other people's business. Akainu thought hard in his heart and he couldn't figure it out even if he scratched his head. Just do as I say. Your navy will immediately mobilize all your forces and immediately encircle Dressrosa's lowest south. Don't worry about anything else. After that, without waiting for Akainu to answer, he continued to say, Royce South's strength is extraordinary. We have already thought about the bounty, 2 billion berries. He immediately hung up the Den Mushi. What do you have to say now? Staring at Fujitora, Akainu asked in a stern tone. Hearing this, Fujitora was silent and his face was gloomy. He had a bad premonition in his heart. The Gorosei inexplicably ordered the Marine to capture Royce South must not be a good thing. Are we arresting the celestial dragons suspected of insubordination? After a while, Fujitora suddenly said. Everyone, including Akainu and the other 2 admirals, Green Ox and Kizuru, had unnatural expressions. The world government is the boss of the Marine, and Tenryubito is the boss behind the scenes of the world government. He was indeed offending his superiors. Although I don't know the reason, it seems that I can only obey orders. To be honest, if I can, I really don't want to be enemies with that horrible man. Maybe our end will be worse than Dustless. Kizaru said helplessly. He was afraid of avoiding Dustless. At present, this is the only thing we can do. Although he is a former colleague, it is a bit unfair to do this now, but it is the duty of the Marine to obey orders. Gather all the elites of the Marine and immediately rush to Dressrosa to flatten Royce South. Akainu waved his hand and continued to order. Also, immediately expel that guy from the Marine and classify him as a pirate with a bounty of 2 billion berries. Due to the propaganda of the Marine, Dustless was kicked out of the Marine. In just a few hours, the news spread all over the world at a miraculous speed. The whole world seemed to have been hit by an unprecedented tsunami, which made the pirates and Marines all over the world, including other forces, dizzy. Not only did they expel me from the Tenryubito identity, but they also deprived me of the Admiral's identity. This kind of thing can't be done by Akainu, only the 5 old guys. Inside Dressrosa's palace, compared to the turbulent world outside, Dustless's place was peaceful. He was enjoying afternoon tea as usual. Hancock massaged Dustless's legs without changing her expression. Perona still massaged Dustless's shoulders with an unhappy face, and Khalifa stood beside Dustless like a javelin. In short, nothing has changed. Compared with the safe and sound Dustless, Mariehua at this moment is another scene, like the Avicii Hell, the most bloody and violent side since the establishment of the world government more than 800 years ago. Mariehua, which usually looks like a peaceful paradise, is now a sea of blood. Chapter 936. At night, today's Mariehua was very different from the past, and even the atmosphere was extremely strange. Mariehua's port was completely sealed. Ah, bastard, do you want breakfast? Mere human beings, dare to attack Tenryubito. Go and call Marine's admiral to come over and execute these bastards. The damn Gorosei wants to kill us all? This is blasphemy, we must burn them in the future. That group of Marines is indifferent. Under the black night sky of Mariehua, countless black figures rushed and slammed, slaughtering Tenryubito unscrupulously. Their methods were extremely cruel and bloody, and they were all fatal. chasing the fleeing celestial dragons. The former high and mighty creator had now become an abandoned stray dog. The obese Tenryubito could not escape the pursuit of the black-clothed man. The two sides were completely incomparable, and the Tenryubito was beheaded like a native dog. Hasn't Chris South, Dustless's fiancé Chris, been caught yet? A broad figure came out of the darkness with a tiger's back and a bear's waist, and a gloomy face full of hostility. When the black-clothed man saw the old man, he looked respectful. This person was wearing a Daoist robe, holding a slender ancient sword in his hand and wearing glasses. His cold eyes were sharper than a knife, and they swept across the black-clothed man one by one. It was the bald Gorosei holding the sword. "Sorry, sir, we haven't found her yet," the black-clothed man said in fear. Hearing this, the bald Gorosei's face turned cold, and the sword in his hand came out of the scabbard, and the sword fell, and the void splashed with a touch of sharpness visible to the naked eye. "Useless rice buckets, what's the use of having you? Poochie." The black-clothed man's neck was suddenly empty, and he was cruelly dismembered by the bald Gorosei. His neck spurted blood like a fountain, cold and ruthless. "You damn human beings, dare to betray the Tenryubito? We are the descendants of the Creator." A Tenryubito who was lying in a pool of blood and had not yet died roared with red eyes. It was as crazy as a psychopath. "Descendants of the Creator?" Hearing this, the bald Gorosei sneered, and immediately his eyes burst into flames of ambition. "Your ancestors, the 20 kings, used the ancient weapon, Heavenly King, to destroy D country 800 years ago. Now we, the Gorosei, will do the same, destroy the order of your Tenryubito, and we will replace your Tenryubito, become the new creator." The bald Gorosei with a longing look. "Now that the Heavenly King's trace has been found, there is naturally no need for your Tenryubito exist." The bald Gorosei, Chris Gorosei, the Gorosei, maybe you would have been slaughtered many years ago, the bald Gorosei. After saying that, the bald Gorosei sneered and immediately waved his sword to release a cold light. Seeing blood, the throat was sealed and the life of the celestial dragon was instantly ended. Mariehua's surroundings were completely sealed, airtight, and even a fly couldn't fly out. The celestial dragons would be eradicated, and it was a sure thing. Dustless naturally didn't know about the huge changes that had happened to Mariehua. At this moment he was still living a drunken life, and he was extremely comfortable every day. In a blink of an eye, 7 days have passed and the sky has gradually darkened. In the palace of Dressrosa. Through the port in the distance, Dustless's eyes flashed with a cruel smile as he stared at the pirates who continued to land in the distance. Now Dressrosa was empty. Most of these pirates who landed were coming for Pluton's design blueprint. "Master, do you still need to arrange tomorrow's gladiator tournament?" Khalifa asked confidently. The pirates who landed on the island came from all directions. Looking at them, they were all powerful people with unprecedented strength, including some big pirates with a bounty of 500 or 600 million berries. The number has reached dozens. The current Yonko for emperors is also among them. But even so, in the face of such a scene, Dustless's confidant was extremely calm. "It's not necessary, I will have a good sleep tonight, and tomorrow I will order Pluton to attack Dressrosa. Maybe the day after tomorrow we will start traveling to other worlds." Dustless lowered his head and muttered to himself, looking at the thousands of pirates under Dressrosa. His eyes flashed with killing intent, and he would never show mercy to this group of pirates. In the other direction of Dressrosa, Marines also landed one after another, but most of them were high-level Marines. In this kind of world-destroying war, ordinary soldiers are just cannon fodder. At the same time, a very embarrassed voice quietly landed on the island. This person's clothes were ragged and her white skin was looming. It was Dustless's fiancée Clea. "By the way, is Shirahoshi ready?" Suddenly turning his head, Dustless asked Princess Otoheim with some curiosity and hope. "No problem." Princess Otoheim said proudly. She was quite confident in Shirahoshi, after all, she was her daughter. Wuxia nodded slightly and then squinted his eyes. The women also went back to their rooms. Due to the battle tomorrow, Wuxia did not force the women to sleep together. There was still time to deal with this group of clowns. Chapter 937. Late at night, the cold wind gradually turned cold. Only Wuxia was resting on the big soft bed. Due to the possibility of a big battle tomorrow, Wuchen also refused the few women's hospitality. It would not be too late to be ridiculous after the whole world was dragged into the nightmare of infinite Tsukuyami. In the warm bed, Dustless arched his body. After a period of high tiredness, he also needed a proper rest. No one could stand living in a tense environment all day long. After some time, Dustless, who was sleeping soundly, frowned. A warm and cold body suddenly got into the bed and snuggled into Dustless's arms like a kitten. Like a little bird, she slowly took off Dustless's pajamas. Dustless felt that this body was unfamiliar. When he was about to open his eyes to explore, cold thin lips suddenly blocked his mouth and unscrupulously asked for more. Could it be Robin? It must be. After so many years, she finally became enlightened. Wuchen relaxed his frowning brows and enjoyed the taste of the fusion of ice and fire. He closed his eyes contentedly. About a few minutes later, Wu Chen's calm heart was stirred up by the ecstasy. The perfect body in the bed was like an exquisite work of art. It was perfect to the extreme. Even with his eyes closed, Dustless could feel the delicacy of the skin. After a while, Dustless changed from defense to offense. He was not a monk. He could not restrain his desires nor suppress them. The next morning, the warm air passed through the window as usual. Dustless rubbed his eyes and opened them sleepily. Unexpectedly, a perfect face was looking at him with a smile. Her sacred green eyes were flawless, and her white arms were supporting her chin. Every strand of her beautiful golden hair was as dazzling as gold. Her fresh and elegant temperament made her seem like a fairy that had descended from the ninth heaven. What made one's blood boil was that this perfect character girl was actually not wearing any clothes to cover her body. Yo! Seeing Wu Chen staring at her without blinking, the young girl waved her hand and greeted him. Yo! Seeing this, Dustless was stunned. He also raised his arm to greet her. After being stunned for a few seconds, Dustless suddenly realized that something was wrong and twitched. Yo, my ass. Explain to me clearly. How did you get on my bed, Clya? Dustless's forehead was filled with countless crows. He almost vomited blood. This perfect girl in front of him was his cheating fiancée. Could it be that last night? That's right. It was me last night. You took away my most precious thing indiscriminately. Clya said with hidden bitterness and a trace of hesitation. Thinking of the madness last night, Wuchen's body stiffened. He immediately stole a glance at Clya's perfect body that could reflect the sunlight. His face turned red as he threw her a piece of clothing. Hurry up and put it on. The latter stuck out her tongue at Dustless, then put on the clothes obediently. She looked at the blushing Dustless with a smile and said seriously, I don't mind. Why should a man like you mind? You make it sound so easy. No one would be able to feel at ease about doing this kind of thing with a strange girl. Dustless rolled his eyes and said, You heartless guy. I am your fiancé. Clya glared at Dustless with dissatisfaction and said resentfully, And we are a match made in heaven. Getting me is the same as conquering the whole world. I am not a pretty boy who relies on his face to make a living. Dustless groaned and said with dissatisfaction. He couldn't help but ask curiously, Getting you is the same as getting the whole world? What do you mean? You have to promise to take responsibility for me first. Clya's sweet laughter was intoxicating like the sound of nature. Suddenly Dustless lowered his head and became silent. He wanted to refuse directly, but when he looked up he met Clya's watery eyes. She looked a little timid and worried, and her eyes were unusually frightened. He couldn't bear to see her like this. Dustless didn't think that he was a good person, but since he had done it with a woman, taking care of her for life was a must. This was the basic principle of being a man. Although this was an accident, the main reason was Dustless. No problem, you say it. Gritting his teeth, Dustless finally made a decision. Even though Clya was also from Tianlong, Wuchen, who was good at observing people, could still see that her nature was not good. She did not have the overbearing arrogance of the people from Tianlong. After saying that, the girl kissed Dustless's face and then leaned lazily in Dustless's arms. She recalled the past and explained softly, I am one of the ancient weapons that the world has been chasing. Heavenly King. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Before Dustless could be surprised, a cold emerald light suddenly appeared in front of him, trying to tear Dustless apart. It was so sharp that everything in its path exploded. An emerald slash? Is it that guy Eagle Eye? Dustless frowned and guessed. He then said to Clya, I will listen to your story in the future, but this world will end soon. I will temporarily put you back into the world of Shenwei. No problem. Hearing this, Clya nodded like a little chick. She trusted Dustless a lot. The people of Tianlong have been destroyed by the 5 elder stars. You are the only one I can rely on in this world. Don't worry. I will not let you down. Dustless gave her a comforting look. He was also quite open-minded. To be honest, he was very curious about this woman at first and secretly guessed her origin. He didn't expect her to be the legendary Heavenly King. Maybe it's because she ate some kind of devil fruit, Dustless guessed in his heart. At the same time, he released Shenwei to devour Clya. There were countless cases of humans eating some kind of devil fruit that caused their body to mutate. The former CP9 officer Spandam had a similar weapon in his hand. Boom. Boom. While he was thinking, the huge slash was getting closer and closer and it was about to swallow Dustless. The sharpness of the slash was enough to easily tear a mountain. You're overestimating yourself. Sitting back on the sofa indifferently, Dustless's eyes rippled. 2 figures hidden in the darkness shot out, blocking in front of Dustless like a shield. Ka ka ka. The 2 of them exerted force at the same time and a huge fist blasted forward. The powerful fist roared out and directly shattered the oncoming slash. It was 100 Beast Kaido and Doflamingo from the 6 Paths of Pain. After a while, the man with the eagle pupil Hawkeye my hawk appeared. Even you betrayed me, Hawkeye. Dustless's tone revealed a touch of emotion and the vicissitudes of life, unusually calm. Hearing this, Hawkeye shook his head and immediately said indifferently, It's not that I betrayed you, but you betrayed me. You violated the original agreement and now you want to destroy the world. I'm sorry, our previous cooperation ends here and now we are in a hostile state. Dustless's mouth raised slightly and he smiled. It seems that you know a lot, but it doesn't matter. Boom. 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 Violent tremors suddenly spread throughout Dressrosa, like a large earthquake of tens of magnitude, and huge cracks appeared on the ground of Dressrosa. It seems to have started. Looking at the trembling sea in the distance, Dustless whispered. Chapter 938. The ground trembled violently and the earth was constantly being torn apart. The whole of Dressrosa was like a lone boat in a storm, churning at a high frequency. However, the strange thing was that this scene didn't last long. Seeing this, Hawkeye let out a relieved smile as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He said in a relaxed tone, Caesar, that guy, he won't use Hades' cannon to attack Dressrosa. Things in the world are often unexpected. I didn't expect that the cowardly brat would embark on the same path as you. Wuxian took a sip of tea indifferently. His expression was even a little lazy and sloppy. Hawkeye frowned and his face flashed with a haze. He felt that he was underestimated and even ignored. It's exactly because you said that Caesar is afraid of death, so he will resist you. Hawkeye said bluntly and immediately raised his voice and said indifferently, Not only that, he will use Pluto to deal with you. All of this was forced by you. Originally, Hawkeye and Caesar didn't intend to betray, but Dustless betrayed them. There is no other way. Looking up at the exquisite ceiling, Wuxian sighed and said, Since ancient times, if you want to succeed, you will always be accompanied by sacrifice. Sacrificing small things to help you achieve greater things. There is nothing inappropriate about this. After all, people are selfish. Boom boom boom. Inside the closed palace, the surroundings suddenly collapsed strangely, and the dazzling sunlight shone in. Dustless instinctively raised his arm to block the sunlight. Crack crack crack. At the same time, the ground under Dustless's feet exploded, and there was a crack the size of an arm and the hot magma overflowed from it. You have a lot of enemies. Hawkeye's eyes narrowed slightly, and he immediately understood who the initiator was. Who made me stand on the opposite side of the world? Dustless said calmly, and he turned a deaf ear to the magma that was slowly swallowing him, and he didn't look at it from beginning to end. Louis South. For the sake of former colleagues, as long as you give me the blueprint of Pluto, I will spare your life. Akainu strangely drilled out of the magma and condensed his head. Not only that, but a group of Marines also appeared and surrounded Dustless. Of course, there were also groups of pirates. Looking down at Akainu's head made of lava, Dustless not only didn't appreciate it but also made Akainu angry. Sakazuki. Your nickname is Akainu, but you don't have to learn to be a dog. Looking at the magma overflowing from the cracks in the ground, Dustless joked. You don't want to be a good person, you have to learn to drill a dog hole. The Marine Fleet Admiral's taste is really heavy. You're courting death. The furious Akainu immediately responded, waving his lava fist as the most ferocious attack. Great fire breath. The huge lava fist came straight at him. Its surface area was even larger than Dustless's entire body. The scorching temperature burned the sky red, and the ground in its path was scorched black. Well, Dustless was indifferent, but there was a dense whistling sound behind him. Looking back leisurely, Dustless's pupils were instantly filled with golden flashes. Yasakani no Magatama. Tens of thousands of light bullets poured down in torrents. The sharpness of the bullets tore through the void in a mighty manner. There was only one target, that is Dustless. Undoubtedly, in this world except for Dustless, the only person who can use Yasakani no Magatama is Kizaru. It seems that the elites of the marine are here. Ripples appeared in the void from his palm, and a slender blade appeared out of nowhere. A cold light flashed across the horizon, and the first-generation ghost blade was unsheathed. The blade was wrapped in a demonic red light, and it was as demonic as fresh blood. It emitted rumbling sounds, and it was as if it couldn't wait to drink blood. Facing the oncoming flame fist, the first-generation ghost blade swept out. Poochie! The bloody light easily passed through the lava fist and suddenly split into two. It was as easy as cutting vegetables. Then he looked back and looked at the large flash of light, and his eyes solidified. This kind of thing, how can it hurt me? Gently lifting his arm, the first-generation ghost blade was filled with a cold light that shattered the sky. After a while, the sky rippled and a huge red light was thrown out from the tip of the first-generation ghost blade. The speed was so fast that only an afterimage could be seen. However, its power was unparalleled, and even the horizon was faintly distorted. The bloody slash beat the prelude of destruction, and the situation was completely one-sided. The incoming golden flashes were intercepted and immediately annihilated as if they had encountered a natural enemy. The sky that was dyed in gold cleared up once again. Of course, I know that I can't hurt you, so I used that kind of powerful attack to attract your attention. His pupils flashed with golden light and a tall figure blocked the sky. His face was full of stubble, wearing reading glasses, and of course his small feet were swallowed by the golden light. Although we used to be colleagues, I still want to ask, have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? Kizaru asked lazily. Well, when the voice fell, a dazzling flash condensed, and Kizaru was immediately surprised to find that Dustless's small feet were also ignited with extremely dense photons. Have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? This sentence should be said by me, Borsellino. Chapter 939. Kizaru was shocked when he saw this. His old face finally couldn't keep calm. His eyes were obviously full of horror. The glittering feet made Kizaru feel a fatal threat, and his hair stood up uncontrollably. The light condensed on his feet reached the limit, and his skin felt incomparable tingling pain. Kizaru chose to make the first move. His body was extremely tall and he kicked toward Dustless's eyes. Dustless was as calm as stagnant water, and his whole body was terrifyingly calm, like a beast lurking in the dark, making people shudder. Seeing that Dustless didn't dodge or take defensive action, even with Kizaru's temperament, his heart flashed with anger, and the strength of his feet increased by 3 points. Boom! The violent impact spread, setting off a rapid impact explosion. A blazing flame mushroom cloud rose into the sky, and the burning black smoke was up to 100 meters long. The sky was filled with water in an instant, and the danger of suffocation filled the air. This feeling, Kizaru was stunned and he noticed a strange touch from his calf. He narrowed his eyes and a bad feeling flashed in his heart. At this moment in the black smoke, a ray of golden light swept through without warning, followed by unlimited expansion, and all the black smoke was dispelled. Very powerful attack, Borsellino. The smoke receded, revealing the intact Dustless. His body was clean and even the dust didn't cover it. On the other hand, Kizaru was still at a disadvantage. Looking closely, Kizaru's calf was caught by the left arm covered with hockey. This is courtesy. Lifting his calf, Dustless jumped up and greeted Kizaru's old face. Lightspeed kick. Boom boom boom. Khazar's body was rampaging and he was kicked hundreds of meters away by Dustless. He was lying on the ground and his whole body was burned. Whiz whiz whiz, at the same time several figures fell from the sky and the ground was covered with smoke and the outline was blurred. Revolutionary Army's boss, Durag Blackbeard Marshal D. Titch Red Hair Shanks and, staring at the large group of pirates behind them, Dustless nodded slightly. There were many pirates with a bounty of more than 100 million berries, and this lineup may destroy the world government. Marine Fleet Admiral Fujitora and Green Ox and Garp and Sengoku and Admiral. Such a luxurious lineup. The spearhead was only aimed at one person, Dustless. Hand over the Hades design blueprint and I'll let bygones be bygones. Louis South, Chief Commander Kong said in a loud voice. His tone was so convincing that one could not help but obey. This battle formation is truly terrifying. Wu Chen's eyes spread out and saw countless legendary figures. He pretended to be afraid and smiled. Then he changed the topic and stared at the stern-looking General Kong. A cunning smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. There is only one Pluton's design and there are so many of you. Who should I give it to? Taking out Pluton's design, Dustless shook it, and the eyes of the pirates and marines also followed. Even the red-haired Shanks's expression was vaguely greedy and covetous. Obtaining the Pluto design blueprint and obtaining the world was just a matter of time. Who could be relieved of the throne of the world king? What a cunning guy! Garp and Sengoku looked at each other and the pirates who besieged Dustless changed their eyes. They looked at each other and from temporary allies they turned into bad intentions. But, of course this kind of thing is mine. Blackbeard laughed and his whole person turned into a gust of wind. An invisible hand condensed in the sky, full of high-density gravity, covered Dustless's Pluton's design. Idiot! Seeing this, Wu Chen smiled secretly. Not only did he not stop it, but he flicked out the King of Hell's design blueprint, deliberately letting the design blueprint fall into Blackbeard's hands safely. Grabbing Pluton's design as if grabbing the whole world, Blackbeard was about to laugh, but suddenly he was shocked to find that everyone's eyes looking at him had changed. In an instant he became the target of public criticism. Shoo shoo shoo, how Shikohaki raged, the earth trembled, the sea churned, the clouds in the sky disappeared, and the original clear sky was torn into a black hole for several kilometers. Whiz whiz whiz, the sword energy was raging and the awe-inspiring fighting power was infinite. The first person to attack Blackbeard was Red Hair Shanks. Revolutionary Army leader Dorag was no exception. Or perhaps the big and small pirates swarmed up and all rushed to Blackbeard. You don't move. Be careful that Pluton's design will be taken by others. The marine side has more rules. Although they are jealous, they rationally choose to stand by. Dustless quietly looked at Commander Kong, Sengoku, Garp and others, and suddenly noticed that a few people were missing. Why aren't the Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, on such an important occasion? Dustless's heart was full of reverie, and the inexplicable disappearance of Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, was unreasonable. Our marine's task is not only Pluton's design. Akainu saw that Sengoku and Garp as well as Commander Kong were there, and he suddenly became confident. In addition, there is your head. Chapter 940. Dustless's pupils were dead and somewhat horrifying, able to swallow the human mind. This group of people, the Navy is really shameless. Wu Chen raised his eyebrows and said indifferently. His eyes fell on the indignant Sengoku and Garp. Dustless's murderous intent was awe-inspiring. Since they can cut off their past relationship, Dustless can do the same. Gravity Sword, Tiger. An incomparably domineering slash swept over. The power of the slash was so great that it caused people to feel despair. The slash was imbued with the power of gravity and wherever it went, it left behind a mess. The ground was sliced apart as easily as tofu, leaving behind a fissure that was tens of meters deep. It swept toward Dustless with the momentum of crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. You're just a loser, but you're so arrogant. Dustless naturally wouldn't choose to sit still. Chakra in his body was surging, and a very dangerous wave floated out of Dustless's body. Don't even think about it. Sengoku's body shone brighter than the sun, and his body expanded rapidly, turning into a sacred and solemn Buddha. His palm condensed an impact and aimed at Dustless. Garp and Akainu looked at each other, each showing their magical power. Haki and their respective abilities bloomed with the power to destroy the world. The colorful light was shining, revealing the power to destroy the world. Without exception, the target was Dustless. Boom boom boom. Dustless's location was subjected to countless powerful attacks and was instantly flattened. All the buildings in Dressrosa also turned into nothingness. Even the pirates fighting nearby were involved in it, and their bodies were not left behind. Ka ka ka. A huge roar sounded, and a crack that stretched for countless meters spread rapidly, swallowing the entire Dressrosa, and the island that had been passed down for thousands of years or even longer collapsed in the blink of an eye. Divided into two. Such a powerful attack, even if he is immortal. Sengoku's voice hasn't fallen yet, and the void condensed a dazzling light and Dustless's body recovered. Not only that, but it was accompanied by a flash of light that penetrated all things. Yasukani no Magatama. Extremely dense rays of light blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Cold light flickered, far sharper than blade light. Furthermore, they were abnormally hot. There was simply no way to evade the torrential rain of light. Almost half of Dressrosa had been torn to shreds. Leave it to me. Under the perception of observation Haki, the exaggerated attack was detected by Fujitora. The tachi in his hand gently tapped on the ground, and a miraculous scene was instantly staged. The ruined buildings on the ground completely ignored the existence of gravity. They slowly rose into the air and finally floated in midair. Boom boom boom. A lot of smoke and dust splashed in the sky, and the flashes crushed all the ruins. The Marines on the ground were safe and sound and were saved by Fujitora's ability. Since I'm going to wreak havoc, I might as well do it thoroughly. Seeing that his attack was blocked, Dustless's eyes became even colder. His body emitted a golden light, and the incomplete Kinsusanu enveloped his body. He stared at the island beneath his feet with contempt in his eyes. Tingai quaking star. In an instant, the clear sky turned incomparably dark. This strange scene stunned everyone, and they all looked up at the sky at the same time. In the depths of the clouds, a huge meteorite about 15 kilometers in diameter slowly fell. Its range covered the entire Dressrosa. Everyone's face was dispirited, and the dead silence was replaced by shock. Jeppo moonwalk. In the crowd, an untimely laugh resounded through the sky, and then a broad figure rose from the ground. Compared with the meteorite, this person's thin body was obviously not worth mentioning. But no one dared to look down on him, and Dustless was no exception. This old thing. Where's this Jeppo moonwalk? Can be counted as flying. Dustless's tone was somewhat stunned. The person who rose into the sky and swept toward the super-large meteorite was the marine hero Garp. It was completely like a rocket piercing the sky, not like Jeppo moonwalk at all. Boom boom boom. Haki rolled and raged, and for the first time in decades, Garp showed his full strength. Under this monstrous momentum, the falling meteorites in the void strangely stopped for a few seconds, as if they were held by a big hand without substance. Looking around, the earth was dark, as if the whole world was covered with a transparent gauze curtain, dim and dark. Under everyone's surprised gaze, the dark iron fist blasted toward the meteorite that was enough to destroy the world. Ka ka ka. The slowly falling meteorite made a crisp sound and immediately shattered. With Garp's fist as the center, the thick and ferocious cracks spread endlessly, as thick as dozens of people stacked together. In the blink of an eye, the entire meteorite was eroded. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A large number of fragments also peeled off, and it was as big as a marine battleship. When it hit the fragmented island, it would definitely collapse, but fortunately, it was moved into the sea by Fujitora's ability. It's not broken yet? Garp's rough old face flashed a touch of surprise. Seeing the meteorite struggling at death's door, Garp's other fist whistled up. Boom boom boom. The meteorite that destroyed Dressrosa disappeared and turned into debris all over the sky. The brilliant sun poured down and the shadow disappeared. The Marines and pirates also breathed a sigh of relief. Just now they had half a foot in hell. You think that's it? It's not that simple. With a sneer on the corner of his mouth, the sky that was not clear for long was dark again, shrouded in despair. Looking up, a meteorite that was no worse than the previous one was coming again. Chapter 941. The island below was torn apart and turned into two halves. All the creatures looked at the exaggerated meteorite with a stunned expression. The atmosphere was dead silent, All the creatures felt that there was a big guillotine on their necks. They thought that they would be able to see the blue sky after clearing the clouds and mist, but they didn't expect to be greeted by another meteorite. "Oh, really, you young people? Hey, now you want us old people to do it, you're getting worse and worse." These words attracted everyone's attention, and they looked for the source of the sound. Everyone's eyes were focused on an old man with a mohawk. His body was wrapped with explosive muscles and he was even stronger than Garp. The vicissitudes of his face made him appear extremely old. However, his bright and spirited eyes would occasionally reveal an oppressively sharp luster. The world government's commander-in-chief, Sky. This old man's strength has always been a mystery. Now that I can witness his strength with my own eyes, it's pretty good. In the void, Dustless smiled indifferently, looking at the meteorite falling from the sky. His eyes flashed with disapproval. The effect of dealing with the pirates with a bounty of 500 to 600 million was perfect. Dealing with Garp and Sky, these super-dimensional monsters, only served to show off their strength. Whoosh! The afterimage jumped up and rushed straight toward the meteorite falling from the sky. Even because the speed was too exaggerated, Dustless could feel the storm blowing on his face. Without exception, like Garp, his fist was swallowed by the darkness, and he pointed straight to the sky without fear. Boom boom boom. An unprecedented heavy blow blasted on the meteorite, and the powerful force destroyed the sky and the earth. In an instant, the meteorite that covered the sky was smashed, and Sky disappeared from everyone's sight. Bang bang bang. In the space where there was no one, it was like someone was stepping on the air and there was a rhythmic explosion. But if you look closely, there were no birds or beasts. Full of flaws. The afterimage that disappeared in the blink of an eye couldn't be captured by others, but Dustless's eyes could see everything at a glance. Light speed kick. The flash condensed on the tip of his foot, cut through the void and blasted straight ahead. The target was the flickering afterimage. Petty tricks. As he stared at the incoming beam of light, Chief Commander Kong's figure was revealed amidst the afterimages that were moving at an extremely fast speed. He floated in the air for a short period of time in a bizarre manner. His gaze was calm and composed, and there was contempt in his eyes. A pair of arms that were several times thicker than human thighs were swallowed by armament hockey, and the power of the fist was enough to smash an island. Bang! The iron fist punched out, and the high-density flash suddenly burst and scattered in all directions. It was exceptionally easy and simple. General Kong cupped his fists and looked straight at Dustless. His tone was full of confidence. "Surrender. You won't be able to escape today." However, just as he finished speaking, Dustless's ghostly voice resounded in Commander Kong's ears. "It's not good to be so arrogant at your age. The sky is not suitable for a marine like you. The sea is more suitable for you." After that, Dustless's right fist was also swallowed by the deep darkness, covered with the sharpness of armament hockey, shining brightly, and even the sunlight could be reflected. Then, under everyone's astonishment, it blasted towards Kong's head. Poochie! General Kong, who was hit hard, vomited blood and his mind was spinning. His mind was blank like a paste and he instantly lost the ability to fight again. Putong! There was a loud explosion on the calm sea, and immediately a huge ripple surged, and then a water column of more than 10 meters high was set off. General Kong, who had just been confronting in the sky, evaporated. Needless to say, it was air who was blasted into the sea. "You're next, Garp." Looking back indifferently, Dustless stared at Garp, who was using Jeppo Moonwalk to occupy the void. He sneered and countless photons appeared all over his body, and he swooped down with great momentum. The speed of light was too fast for the naked eye to catch. "Found him." After a few seconds of silence, Garp's eyes shone with a cold luster. Under the perception of observation hockey, he understood the existence of Dustless, and immediately turned around and punched without hesitation. Boom! The ripples visible to the naked eye spread rapidly, and this unparalleled impact wave covered a range of more than 10 kilometers. If it was on land, it may be a one-time collision that would wipe out Dressrosa. When did this guy's armament hockey reach this level? In mid-air, Dustless and Garp's fists collided. The feeling of soreness and swelling pain from his fist made Garp a little dazed, and it was the first time in decades that he felt this way. Bang bang bang. The dull impact sounded continuously, and the ripples visible to the naked eye repelled out one after another. The sky became a forbidden area, and there were only two figures fiercely confronting each other. Good opportunity. Perceiving that Dustless showed a rare flaw, Garp's fist hit Dustless's right shoulder very craftily, and his power increased dozens of times in an instant. The fish took the bait. Seeing this, Dustless was not surprised and his eyes went wild. Kemui. Garp's fists also inevitably hit the air when his body turned from nothingness to reality. He who was completely unaware, instantly became a fat and beautiful lamb in Wu Chen's eyes. While Garp was distracted, a ray of golden light fell from the sky, and the localized Kinsusanu's fist hit him. Chapter 942. Without warning, a huge fist fell from the sky. When Garp was hit with all his strength, he woke up from his dream and used armament hockey to defend himself. He suffered a heavy blow and his head was bleeding. Puff. Without exception, Garp also followed the footsteps of Air Commander and was blasted into the deep sea by Dustless. Go and save both of them. Ainu's face was blue and he yelled at the stunned Marines behind him. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. A group of idiots, they don't even have a little bit of eyesight. Next, a light voice filled their ears and a figure flashed out of the ground. After I end you, this world will set foot on heaven. The line of sight revolved around the remaining high-level Marines, and the pirate side was ignored by Dustless. That group of people only cared about competing for Pluton's design blueprint. Blackbeard was already riddled with holes, and whether he could survive was a problem. Compared with the pirates, the Marines are the real enemy. Let's go together. Retired Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Admiral Tinghu, including the new Admiral Green Bull and Akainu, everyone looked at each other and rushed to Dustless. Meteor Volcano. With a wave of his hand, it was his strongest move. A huge flaming fist rushed towards Dustless. Everything in front of the magma was burned to ashes. Dustless didn't change his face when he saw this, and his body erupted with a majestic repulsive force. Shinra Tensei. The magma near his feet was easily bounced out. The eyeball suddenly flashed with a dazzling light. Wu Chen instinctively raised his arm to block his eyes. Taking advantage of this opportunity, an incomparably tyrannical attack came from behind. Pucci. The invisible force fluctuation couldn't be defended. It was like a shockwave without substance. It instantly hit Dustless and his bones also made a crackling sound of destruction. Dustless was seriously injured. It worked. Sengoku said hopefully, his eager eyes were piercing. Sengoku, is your ability this kind of irresistible impact? It really worked. Glancing back at Sengoku, Dustless was calm as if nothing had happened. He didn't even cry out in pain, which made Sengoku deeply shocked. Mysterious power gushed out of his body, the broken bones and the injured viscera were repaired at an extremely fast speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths of time he was completely healed. This exaggerated defensive ability caused everyone's eyes to widen, and a trace of despair inevitably rose in their hearts. What kind of monster is this bastard? Is it possible that he ate hundreds of devil fruits like that pervert Blackbeard? Thinking of Dustless's thousands of abilities, Akainu felt dizzy. As long as we shatter his entire body, he will never be able to recover. A deep shout raised everyone's hope. They looked up and saw that it was Commander Kong and Garp who had crawled out from the deep sea. At this moment, both of them were in a sorry state with blood all over their bodies. That's right, let's attack him together. Akainu also shouted loudly, a one-on-one fight may not work, but if 5 or 6 people come together, their combat power will inevitably increase. It's been a long time, haven't you given up yet? Dustless shook his head and sighed, and immediately looked at the stubborn and unwilling eyes of the Marine senior officers, and his whole body was covered with a higher density of chakra. Well, I'll let you see my true face. A nearly 200-meter golden giant wearing a Tengu armor appeared in the sky, Kinsusanoo complete form. The giant's head stood on the ground and the whole world was covered by his light. His whole body was filled with the smell of ancient decay. His ancient armor had been through hundreds of battles, leaving countless traces, and the 2 long swords at his waist could cut the world. When Kinsusanoo complete form flashed, the whole world was silent, and the pirates and marines who were fighting with Dressrosa stopped breathing for a moment. Even the coveted Pluto King's design was forgotten. Playing. Under the control of Dustless's mind, Kinsusanoo complete form was unsheathed, and there was a crisp roar. When the Tachi of Light was completely unsheathed, the remaining creatures of Dressrosa saw the Grim Reaper in a trance. Everyone give up fighting for the time being, attack Royce South first, he wants to destroy us all. Durag shouted, and his tone carried the power of bewitchment. The pirates and even the marines were all influenced, and all the spearheads were aimed at Dustless. Boom. Ka ka ka. With a height of nearly 200 meters, it was not easy to move, and it immediately became the perfect target. It was surrounded and beaten violently. The exaggerated height was too big a threat, and it became the target of everyone's venting. Although Consisinu complete form was powerful, it was not invincible. In the face of the relentless bombardment of thousands of strong people, its armor and limbs were constantly smashed. However, the incomplete cracks would be repaired by chakra gushing out of Dustless's body. When there are many ants, they can also shake the world. Dustless in Consisinu complete form sighed, and immediately the majestic chakra rushed out, and the 200-meter-tall body strangely became taller. Not only that, a large number of irregular golden charms filled Consisinu's body, and whether it was defense or attack, it was a world of difference from before, and it received a dimensional upgrade. Senjutsu Consisinu complete form. Sorry, let's part here, I'm tired of playing, let's part here. Dustless said to himself, and then his pupils twisted sharply. Tomb of Samsara, Border Prison. Chapter 943. In the invisible world, dozens of figures flew out one after another. Looking closely, it was Dustless's shadows, and the number was beyond previous knowledge. There were 12 of them. It was far more than Madara's 4 shadows. This was reasonable after all. Dustless's eye power was not comparable to Madara's. The shadows that were usually only used for hand-to-hand combat at this time, like Dustless's left eye, turned into deep 9-tomo Rinnegan, pulsing with ancient and mysterious brilliance. Especially the 9-tomo hanging, the folds were shining as gorgeous as gems. Then this group of puppet shadows strangely opened their mouths at the same time, and it was the same word and move. The shadows' left eyes turned sharply, and the substantialized chakra rose more than 200 meters. Consisinu. The 12 shadows launched Consisinu at the same time, and the fierce Tengu armor condensed in the void. What was more terrifying was that this majestic and infinite chakra was neither the mature Consisinu, nor the complete Consisinu. It was the same Senjutsu Consisinu as Dustless. The entire sea around Dressrosa, plus Dustless's Consisinu, gathered a total of 13 Senjutsu Consisinu. The entire Dressrosa was surrounded, and not even a drop of water could leak out. This group of idiots. Forget it, I'm too lazy to explain. Sometimes ignorance is a kind of precious happiness, and it's not good to let them understand the cruel reality. Really, I must have been a bodhisattva in my previous life. Dustless admired himself, and he was speechless for his kindness and benevolence. Clang clang clang. 13 more than 10 meters long luminous tachi appeared in the void, aiming and locking in the direction of Dressrosa. However, the sad pirates and marines were still bombarding Dustless's Consisinu, and the remaining 12 Consisinu were not seen. Farewell, everyone. Dustless's face was indifferent, and under the control of his mind, the 13 tachi fell at the same time. Boom boom boom. The Armageddon blade fell, and the 2 halves of Dressrosa were instantly annihilated, turning into particles that sank into the sea. The entire sea was scarlet red, and countless corpses floated on it. At first glance, almost all of them were missing an arm or a leg. Just like Dressrosa, they had been cruelly dismembered. Some devil fruit users who were lucky enough to survive had only death waiting for them. Cough cough cough. The figure covered in blood climbed onto a small floating object. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and his body was powerless. Looking closely, this person's stomach had been cut open, and there was a frightening wound on his chest. It was as if his entire body had been split apart. Even so, he survived. Marine Headquarters Fleet Admiral Sakazuki. He actually survived. Dustless, who was in the sky, removed Consisinu, stood on the surface of the water, looked at the broken corpses around, smiled slightly, then glanced at Akainu and left. His internal organs had been crushed, and even God couldn't save him. Akagami's body, Dorag's body, Kizaru's body, Fujitora's body, Hawkeye's body. Dustless counted the loot and nodded with satisfaction. To some extent, it was a miracle that they could preserve their bodies after being attacked by 13 Senjutsu. Consisinu perfect body. Live on while at death's door. Glancing at Akainu with pity, Dustless began to look for Hancock and others as well as the whereabouts of Shirahoshi. Later he would use infinite Tsukuyomi and tree world descent to end this world. This kind of indiscriminate technique, Hancock and Robin will also be affected, and must be stored in the system in advance. Rumble. The Den Mushi in his arms suddenly rang. Akainu was stunned, and immediately took out the black Den Mushi with a lonely face. Sakazuki. What's the situation? Has Lewis South been killed? With so many high-end forces he will die. The Gorosei on the other side of the Den Mushi laughed. Sorry. The Marine was defeated, all of them were wiped out. Akainu said with guilt and immediately looked at the bodies floating on the sea. Not only us but the pirates, the Yonko for emperors, and the high-level revolutionary army were all wiped out by Lewis South. He defeated the whole world alone. So only Lewis South is alive? The Gorosei on the other side of the Den Mushi said in a low voice. Akainu also heard the subtle change in the Gorosei's voice, and immediately said seriously, yes. Hey. Your Marine has served the world government for many years, and now the government will help you get revenge on Lewis South. After that the Gorosei closed the Den Mushi. Akainu was left with a blank face. Half an hour later, Dustless finally found the traces of the women and Shirahoshi, and put them into the system, and was about to release infinite Tsukuyomi. The sea under his feet suddenly trembled. This is. The sky also turned fiery red. Dustless's pupils shrank, and looking as far as he could, the distant sky was burning red, and at the same time the sea was rolling up monstrous waves. An unprecedented shock spread, not a small town, not an island, but the whole world. The whole world was rolling like it was about to explode. Chapter 944. Bastard, what's going on? Noticing the abnormality of the whole world, Dustless's face changed rapidly. He clenched his fists and tried to take in the changes of the whole world with his majestic perception. It's not an illusion, nor is it a genjutsu. The whole new world is collapsing. The dormant volcanoes erupted again, the mountains on the seabed began to dislocate, there was a violent vibration, hot magma erupted in the deep sea, and the weather of the new world became lightning and thunder. Islands are constantly sinking and being destroyed, whether it's occupied by pirates or marines, or some unknown deserted islands. They are all sinking rapidly. Disappeared from the map plate. Could it be? His pupils shrank. Dustless suddenly realized that after something big touched the taboo, this kind of shocking scene will happen. His body immediately rushed out like a storm. Staring at the dying figure on the floating object in front of him, he stopped in his tracks. Is this also in your plan? Sakazuki. His feet stopped in the void, looking down at Akainu in front of him. Dustless frowned and asked. This. Trying to open his eyes, Akainu said with all his strength. Although I am unscrupulous in order to achieve my goals, but not to this extent, this is done by the Gorosei. It has nothing to do with the Marine. After that, Akainu closed his eyes forever, and his breathing and heartbeat stopped forever. This guy. Forget it. Looking at Akainu, who died and still defended the Marine, Dustless had nothing to say. Although Akainu's thoughts are extreme, he can sacrifice anyone for the so-called justice. But it is undeniable that he sincerely protects the Marine, and he has no selfish desires. At least this is the most respectable point. Damn the Gorosei, their ambition is enough to swallow the world. In order to kill me, they are willing to bury the whole world with me. If he didn't guess wrong, the Gorosei did what he wanted to do but didn't do it. They used the power rock to detonate 3 places that maintain the balance of the new world, causing the new world to collapse. Well played. Not only did you successfully erase all the pirates in the world, even the Marines and I were also erased. The 5 of them will be able to sit back and relax and become the new creators. Most of the world's powerhouses were gathered in the new world. If this group of people was destroyed, the world ruled by the 5 elder stars would fall into an unprecedented peace. They would also be called godlike existences by the world. Boom boom boom. The series of explosions continued, affecting a range of hundreds of kilometers. The entire new world was devastated and involved in this explosive feast. Countless islands disappeared and the terrified people were brutally wiped out. Even when they died, they didn't know what had happened. I'll come out and deal with the 5 of you later. Observing the new world that was engulfed by explosions and various geological disasters such as volcanic eruptions, super earthquakes and great tsunamis, Dustless, who was floating in the void, was swallowed up by the vortex and soon disappeared without a sound. Inside the Xinwei world. Although Wu Chen's divine power originated from a beetle, the difference between the divine power and the different space was like heaven and earth. Although it couldn't be said to be a paradise in the mortal world, it was still lofty and comfortable. Plop. The sound of falling into the water attracted Dustless's attention and he followed the source. After a while Dustless was embarrassed. In the clear lake the girl was naked. Her snow-white skin and perfect curves were exposed to Dustless's sight. Her long golden hair was dancing and she was very happy. Looking up, there were 2 strands of cherry red on her breasts. It was perfect and flawless and the scenery was beautiful. Dustless suppressed his hoarse breath. For a moment his mouth was dry and his tongue was dry. An inexplicable flame burned in his heart, and it quickly squeezed Dustless's reason. Cough cough. Remembering that he still had important matters to ask, Dustless had to suppress his evil thoughts. He deliberately raised his voice and coughed twice to attract Clia's attention and make his presence known. Noticing Dustless's appearance, Clia was overjoyed, but she still pretended to be dissatisfied and muttered, "I thought you forgot about me. Stop talking nonsense and put on your clothes." Dustless waved his hand righteously. His modest and gentlemanly appearance made Clia both angry and amused. When he had taken away her most precious thing, he had given her the impression that he was a hungry wolf that had not eaten for many years. He was incomparably ferocious and wanted to completely suck her dry. Clia pursed her lips and smiled. She came ashore in a natural and unrestrained manner and elegantly dressed herself. This girl is indeed different from the other people of Tianlong. Peeking at Clia's every move, Dustless was quite surprised. After more than 10 years of meticulous service, Dustless's heart had already decayed. Putting on clothes was something that he was not familiar with. Dustless had to do it herself. This was also the reason why Dustless lost himself in the decadent life of the people of Tianlong. Clia put on her clothes so easily and simply. It indirectly showed that she used to do it herself. Practice makes perfect and she did not need the help of others. "You should tell me about your origin, right?" Dustless blinked and asked curiously. Clia nodded slightly and immediately sank into her memories. The young girl's tone was full of vicissitudes, giving people the illusion that she was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. "To be honest, 800 years ago I accidentally ate a devil's fruit. Its ability allowed me to evolve all kinds of extreme firearms. Because of its terrifying power the people gave me a name, Heavenly King," Clia said proudly with a hint of pride in her tone. "Then what is your relationship with the 20 kings who built the world government?" Dustless was puzzled. Since her ability was so invincible and she was given the title of God by the world, there was no need to cooperate with the ancestors of the people of Tianlong, which was the 20 kings. There is no invincible devil's fruit, there is always a short time. While I gained great power, there was also a fatal loophole. Some extremely powerful weapons had a limit to the number of times they could be used, and excessive use would cause them to fall into a coma. Fortunately, I have the ability to not die, so the long river of life is just a moment for me. Clia smiled bitterly. If she could really exert her full strength, she would not have been driven out of Mariehua by the 5 elder stars, and she even had to submit to Dustless. "That's enough. I'm not interested in knowing about your past." With a wave of his hand, Dustless interrupted directly. He just wanted to know Clia's origin. Nothing else was important. No one wanted to have an unknown person around them. "That's it?" Clia's face was full of suspicion and she immediately emphasized, "I'm an old monster who has lived for more than 800 years. "So what if it's more than 800 years? Dustless asked in amusement. "Kagaya is an old monster who has lived for at least 1,000 years. You can just wait here." His body blurred again, passing through thousands of space-time and returning to the real world. Everything had changed and the whole world was bleak like the hell of the human world. "I wanted to let you go to the Genjutsu world to dream of the Creator, but now it seems that I should forget about it." His right eye turned into the Tensigan. Dustless formed a seal with both hands and without hesitation he entered the Tensigan chakra mode and several green spheres floated behind him. Dustless looked at Mariehua countless miles away, and pointed his sword at the 5 elder stars. Chapter 945. No matter when and where, under which starry sky, there is no shortage of existences in this world who like to seek death. The emerald green light lingered around Dustless's body, and his temperament also underwent a shocking change. Under the Tensigan chakra mode, Dustless became more and more indifferent, and the dead still pupils did not have human emotions. Like a machine standing at an unprecedented height, full of contempt for all living things in the world, looking at the grasses and trees of the world with a condescending gaze. The sky is so small and all living things are so unbearable that they can only tremble. Carefully experiencing the chakra fluctuations flowing in his body, Dustless has never felt that life is so worthless. The power to destroy the world with a wave of his hand and create the world with a raise of his hand is indeed intoxicating. If you don't seek death, you won't die. Since you seek death, then you will die. Dustless's cold eyes looked into the distance, and his overbearing eyes ignored the distance. Mariehua, who was countless miles away, could be seen at a glance. The 5 elder stars who were celebrating happily could not escape Dustless's eyes. Go to hell. Several green prayer beads floating behind him wandered in front of Dustless, and then quickly liquefied, turning into a faint light that condensed in Dustless's palm. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. The negligible light in his hand was instantly magnified 10 times, 100 times and even 1,000 times longer. Dustless was thousands of kilometers away from Mariehua, but under the unlimited extension of the light sword, it became close and within reach. The light sword of Doomsday could not accurately hit Mariehua, but it covered the entire red line. Boom! The light swept out and passed through the red line with an unstoppable momentum. It cut through the red line effortlessly, and the majestic red line was cut in half. It was trembling and may be destroyed and flattened at any time. This is the final attack. 5 fingers spread out, condensing a dangerous strength, and the edge faintly shattered the world. Dustless did not aim at Mariehua. After all, the position was thousands of miles away and he could not pinpoint the specific location. Dustless's target of attack and destruction was always the red line. If the red line is completely shattered and turned into ruins, the 5 elder stars will also be doomed. Bang bang bang. The boundless repulsive force that seemed to cover the entire world erupted, and the red line that was hit directly collapsed. Previously, it had been sliced in half by the tyrannical light sword, and now it was attacked again by this repulsive force, and the red line that could no longer hold on finally collapsed. The entire red line was in a state of chain reaction, sinking into the bottom of the sea, and Mariehua, who had stood at the top for more than 800 years, also disappeared into the sea. With the support of the moon's repulsive force, the sea also set off a super tsunami that was hundreds of feet high, and it mightily attacked the red line that had already vanished. In the face of this huge disaster that was enough to change the entire world's landscape, the 5 elder stars' methods were exceedingly powerful. Moreover, according to Dustless's point of view, the 5 of them were all ability users. If they fell into the sea, it would be difficult for them to escape even if they grew wings. The next step is the final step. Dustless tapped the surface of the sea with the tip of his foot and immediately floated towards the moon. The emerald radiance on his body quickly retracted and he returned to his normal human appearance. The Rinnegan Sharingan gently rippled, and its eye power crossed thousands of miles and was reflected on the surface of the moon. Dustless whispered softly in the corner of his mouth, and the obscure language was difficult for ordinary people to understand. At this moment he made a seal with one hand, and his slightly gloomy face outlined a touch of eagerness. He immediately looked directly at the red moon that had turned into the Rinnegan Sharingan and did not hesitate to pull the prelude to the destruction of the world. Infinite Tsukuyomi. Illuminate the world. As Wu Chen's voice fell, an incomparably dazzling light poured down in torrents, covering the entire planet. Even the animals that were active in the depths of the sea and in the depths of the earth were unable to escape the capture of the flash. After a pause for a few seconds, the pupils of the creatures affected by the infinite Tsukuyomi turned into the Rinnegan state. Any life in the sea, land and air is the same. No one can escape the shackles of the light. This white light, which is far more dazzling than the sun, can penetrate the shadow of people. There is one more process left. Dustless in midair swept his eyes as if he could see through the whole world. Finally, his eyes fell on some islands that had not been destroyed, and then he made a seal with both hands. God, tree world descends. The emerald towering tree stretched at the speed of light, and the speed of growth was immeasurable. Just the moment it landed and took root, the tree with strong vitality occupied the entire island. The dense roots grew vigorously and they were endless with infinite vitality. Finally, they marched to the depths of the sea and continued to grow until they covered the whole planet. Dense small roots grew out of the large torso, wrapping the humans or animals who had been hit by the infinite Tsukuyomi like mummies. It slowly sucked the vitality in their bodies until the towering ancient tree bears new fruits. Then everything will stop. It seems that it will take a while. Dustless said helplessly with a frown. At the top of the giant tree, red fruits have been born, but they are only the size of a thumb. Sure enough, it's a ruthless technique completely using the vitality of all creatures as nourishment. Wuxian secretly clicked his tongue. Although his mouth was like this, his heart was calm and magnanimous. Although the method was extremely cruel and bloody, he saw through it. People are selfish and Dustless will not be kind to the world. In the end, he only has one identity from the beginning to the end. He is a predator from other dimensions. Chapter 946. In the system's world. Time flew by and in the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. During this period, the tree of God had once again borne fruit. Dustless distributed it to the girls in the system. Although he did not know if they could live forever, at least their appearance could be restored to their youth. This world is changing so fast. Under the cool shade of the tree, Wuxian looked down at the girls who were laughing and chatting with each other with a gentle gaze. For a moment he was filled with emotions and murmured to himself. In the past he was alone, but now he had countless beauties to accompany him. At this point in his life, Dustless had no desires. You need to be whipped. A melodious sound of nature resounded in the ears. The void beside Wuxian splashed with ripples, and then a beautiful figure stood out. Her hair was blown by the wind and her shining eyes were extremely wise. She saw through Dustless's thoughts. The shackles that have been troubling you have disappeared. You feel much more relaxed now, right? Hearing this, Dustless pursed his lips and smiled, nodding in agreement. All along their lifespan has been my worry. Now that it's finally solved, it's natural for me to feel relaxed. Dustless stretched and coincidentally met the system linger's unkind eyes. He was speechless. You're a system, yet you have such groundless fears. Forget it, tell me the location of my next world. The system linger nodded and then her face froze. She said seriously, that world is a little special. You can only enter as a soul. Soul? Dustless's calm eyes rippled and he said nervously, soul? Don't tell me you want to seal my strength? Seal his strength? What a joke. He spent half a century to gain his strength and it was sealed just like that. Dustless was naturally unhappy. I'm not sealing your strength, nor am I suppressing your strength. No one can do that, not even me. The system linger shook her head and then said bluntly, your strength is still at its peak, but you'll be entering that world as a soul. I'm not sure what will happen. There's no need to worry about such a small matter. In short, it's fine as long as it doesn't seal my strength. You have to give up something to gain something. Even if there are accidents, it's inevitable. Dustless waved his hand. With his current strength, there was no need for him to be afraid of anyone. As the entire body of the Ten-Tails, he was an absolute existence that could not be killed. Not only his physical body but also his soul. It's good that you have such awareness. System Ling slowly nodded, then asked in a light voice, do you have anything else to tell me? Explain. Hearing this, the corner of Dustless's mouth twitched. His eyes were full of suspicion and resentment. He looked at System Ling feeling like it wanted him to leave a will or something. Do it. Recalling his heaven-defying abilities, Dustless felt relieved. Boom boom boom. In the cloudless sky above Soul Society, a huge hole appeared in the void after a loud explosion, which woke up the entire Soul Society. The captains of the Goding 13 quickly rushed over. This situation was usually the rhythm of the Great Void invading Soul Society. The huge hole in the sky was getting bigger and bigger as if it was going to swallow the entire Soul Society. In the depths of the black hole, there was a frightening energy fluctuation. Bang! A black shadow fell out from within and smashed onto the ground, losing consciousness. Who is he? The captains of the Goding 13 frowned and looked at the young man on the ground in confusion. They had no impression of this young man. Is this a disaster? Lock him up for now. The old man with the crutch ordered. He would not allow anything that could threaten Soul Society to happen. Understood, head captain. My head hurts. The drowsy dustless gradually opened his eyes. Instinctively he wanted to rub his eyes but he could not do it. His limbs were bound and it was difficult to move his body. Suddenly he realized that something was wrong and his pupils dilated several times. What's going on? With a dull look, Dustless was shocked to find that he was tied up by thick iron chains, and there was an executioner with a knife staring at him fiercely. Moving his line of sight forward, there were a few captains in white feather clothing who were curiously sizing up Wuxian, who was in a daze. "What do you want?" A bad feeling arose in his heart. Dustless looked at the executioner with a gloomy face. He was also wearing a captain's feather, and his expression was extremely ferocious. However, Dustless was tied up with iron chains. It seemed like they were going to execute him. "Disaster, you have hindered the safety of Soul Society. You must be punished." A man with brown skin, purple hair and goggles said coldly. He was also a captain. "What the F***ck? Dustless vomited blood and cursed in his heart. At the same time his eyes were extremely terrifying and cold light gathered. It was impossible for him to just wait for death. At the same time, Dustless was very confused. In the past his transmigration was very stable, but this time there was a problem. Although the system Ling was usually a little weird, it would never trick him. Since it was not the system, it was obvious that the problem was with Soul Society. Chapter 947. Dustless lowered his head and pondered, trying to figure out this unexpected change. From a transmigrator to a prisoner, even with his vast knowledge, his mind was still in a mess. "Boy, do you have any last words?" The ferocious voice was filled with sympathy and pity, sizing up Wuxian with a condescending gaze. A breeze blew over and the captain's haori fluttered. The black 11 on his back was very conspicuous. Dustless glanced at him and looked away. This guy should be the 10th Kenpachi, Onigami Iasu. Dustless's eyes changed rapidly. He thought to himself, ignore him directly. This unlucky guy will be killed by Gingmu Jianba in the future. "I'm not a traveler. I used to live in the 65th Street of Rukuen Street. I just accidentally awakened Zanpakuto." His clear eyes fell on Shunsui Kayakura, Jushru Yukitake and the others, and finally fell on the gentle face of the 4th Division Captain, Unohana Retsu. In Dustless's impression, these people were the only ones with a conscience. However, as the saying goes, plans can't keep up with changes. Soon someone came to expose him, and it was Unohana Retsu, who Dustless had a good impression of. She smiled and said, "It's not good to lie. There's no fluctuation of spiritual pressure in your body, and you don't seem to be dead. Your Zanpakuto is also missing, boy." Dustless's face was full of shock. He didn't expect Unohana Retsu to be so smart. He glared at her and quickly thought of a solution. Suddenly an idea flashed in his mind. "This is my Zanpakuto." Ripples splashed in the void, and an ancient Zanpakuto that was much longer than a normal Zanpakuto appeared out of thin air. What a strange Zanpakuto." The captains looked at each other and curiously stared at the Zanpakuto floating in the void. It was the first time they saw such a long Zanpakuto. "A bunch of idiots, this is the first generation Onigami." Dustless's face was calm, but he was laughing in his heart. He immediately said, "As for why there's no spiritual pressure in my body, the reason is very simple. I was unfortunate to encounter a grand void, and when I fought with them, I exhausted all my spiritual pressure and fainted." Since no one saw it, Dustless could make up whatever he wanted. However, not only did his words not dispel the doubts of the captains, but they also furrowed their brows and looked at Dustless in unison. Seeing his calm and clear eyes without fear, they all looked suspiciously at Ghost Yanqing and Sword 8. The 11th Division was responsible for the safety of the Street of Drifting Souls. It was a serious crime for the Great Void to sneak in. "Bastard, don't talk nonsense." Ghost Yanqing's face turned green and his eyes were burning. The Zanpakuto was out of its scabbard, revealing a sharp cold light under the refraction of the sun. The tip of the blade swept towards Dustless's throat. "Shio!" A beautiful figure rushed over and blocked in front of Wuxian, blocking the saber light that was attacking Wuxian. "Captain Gui Yanqing, the head captain, will make a decision on this matter." "That's right." Hearing this, Wuxian nodded like a chick pecking rice. He immediately said in a strange tone, "He wants to silence me. After I die there will be no evidence." He can also push all the blame to me. Looking closely, this person was Aizen. At this moment, Aizen was very open. He opened his hands to block the Zanpakuto katana. Captain Katana, don't be impatient. What Zanpakuto said makes sense. The captain will decide. Yukitake Jushuru stood up for Aizen. His words resonated with all the captains and they all agreed with Aizen's suggestion. This kid deserves to be called the movie king. What a beautiful move. No matter what happens in the end, he'll have a good reputation. Dustless was quite unhappy. He looked at the righteous Aizen with disdain. Aizen used Dustless to gain a good reputation. If he didn't know who Aizen was, Dustless would have been fooled by his gentle appearance. In fact, he was a vicious snake. Katana's face was gloomy, and he stared at Dustless with murderous intent. In the end, he chose to take back his Zanpakuto and asked, "Kid, what is your name?" "My name is Dustless." Dustless chose to forget the surname Uchiha. "You said you defeated a Minos Grande?" Ghost Yancheng's eyes were filled with cunning. He sneered, "If you want to prove your innocence, it's easy. The weakest in the Great Void is Jillian. Only the vice-captain can deal with him. If you can kill them, it means that your strength is at least at the vice-captain level." At this point, Ghost Yancheng's 8th swordsman released a spiritual pressure that soared into the sky and pounced on Dustless. "I will suppress my power to the vice-captain level. If you can defeat me, then what you said is true. Otherwise, everything you said before is bullshit and I will kill you with my own hands." A sinister laugh filled with killing intent spat out from Ghost Yancheng's throat. The meaning was self-evident. This guy. All the captains were unhappy when they heard this and they were cursing him for being shameless. A captain was a captain. Even if he suppressed his power to the vice-captain level, he could still defeat the vice-captain easily. "Captain Katana, you are going too far." Unohua Lai frowned. Her calm tone was filled with anger. Bullying the weak was a disgrace to the Goding 13 and insulting the title of 8th Blade. 8th Blade meant the strongest swordsman in Soul Society. Yancheng's actions were the complete opposite. "No problem." Staring at the man-eating ghost Yancheng and Saber 8, Dustless's indifferent reply made all the captains look at each other. Chapter 948. The Gotii 13 squadrons had a total of 13 squadrons, and the one with the strongest combat power was the 11th Division. And the captain of the 11th Division was an outstanding existence among the captains. This little guy. Unohana Retsu's eyes were filled with light as she looked at Dustless with interest. After a while, her eyes dimmed as she did not notice anything different about Dustless. He did not have any ryatsu and looked very ordinary. The only thing that Unohana Retsu appreciated was that he was able to remain calm even when facing a ferocious captain like Ghost Yancheng. This made Unohana Retsu look at him in a new light. The fact that he can become a captain means that his strength has been recognized by the head captain, and the previous captains of the 11th Division are all extremely strong, and they are also the best among the captains. Unohana Retsu quietly explained as she looked at first-generation Ghost Che's elegant scabbard. "You have awakened Zanpakuto and you still have a long way to go. There is no need for you to throw your life away. Anyone who offends this man's enemy will die in the end." Dustless looked at Unohana Retsu suspiciously and asked curiously, "This is our first meeting, why are you telling me this?" "This?" Being asked by Dustless, Unohana Retsu remained calm and said seriously, "Your body does not have ryatsu and you are still so calm when facing a captain. If you can survive, I believe that your future will be bright. This way Soul Society might even have a genius who can stand on the same level as Captain Ikamaru Jin in the future." "Thank you for thinking so highly of me, Captain Unohua. However, I still want to give it a try." Tactfully rejecting Unohua's good intentions, Dustless said resolutely. A faint light flashed in the corner of his eyes. Dustless wanted to provoke this rash green Blade 8. Other than purposely splashing dirty water on him, he also wanted to test the captain's strength. Since he was not familiar with this place, he needed to at least find a suitable candidate to understand this world. "Where does this brat get his confidence from?" Unohua said in surprise. Cherry's small mouth opened wide, and she was about to try and persuade Cherry when a vigorous voice that was filled with confidence attracted everyone's attention. "Humph." A muffled groan sounded, and the originally warm and cool air became incomparably hot. "Gui Yanqing, remember this clearly. You are the captain of Soul Society. Every move you make represents quiet Soul Society. You are not a hooligan who bullies the weak and fears the strong. The head captain reprimanded coldly. His words were merciless. However, since both sides are willing, let's go with Captain Ghost Yencheng's suggestion. Remember, don't go too far. The head captain's sunken eyes suddenly widened several times as he spoke in an extremely cold tone. I couldn't ask for more. The ferocious-looking Ghost Yencheng laughed loudly. No problem, Dustless said indifferently as he met the head captain's gaze. In an extremely spacious area, there were dozens of people around. This place was surrounded by mountains on all sides. It was a sealed valley. Other than a few captains, there was no one else. How strange. Why is that old man Yamamoto purposely biased towards me? Staring at Kenpachi Gui Yenching, who was 10 meters in front of him, Dustless's peripheral vision was revolving around old man Yamamoto, who was holding a walking stick and watching from afar. Kenpachi Gui Yenching was a noble Kenpachi, and Dustless was just an ordinary person. The direction of the heavens should be one-sided. However, the head captain was insinuating that he was suppressing Kenpachi Gui Yenching. This in itself did not make sense. This old man. I think he is looking for an opportunity to eliminate Kenpachi Gui Yenching. The confusion in Dustless's heart disappeared, and he vaguely understood the head captain's intention. Later on, Zaraki Kenpachi single-handedly eliminated Kenpachi Gui Yenching, and he naturally became the captain. Zaraki Kenpachi could be said to be old man Yamamoto's disciple who taught him the way of the sword. Boom boom boom. A purple light burst out from the sky. Under the boundless spiritual pressure, the mountains that bordered the area trembled and the particles on the ground trembled slightly. Is this spiritual pressure? Smacking his lips, Dustless's eyes flashed with fascination. The stronger a person's soul was, the stronger their spiritual pressure would be. As the Ten Tails, Dustless did not know how strong his soul was. However, one thing was for sure, it was definitely not weak. Roar roar roar. In the sky, the spiritual pressure condensed into a ferocious beast with a mouth full of fangs. Scorching saliva dripped out of its mouth, and it would burn the ground when it touched it. Is this all you've got? Captain Kenpachi Gui Yenching. Staring curiously at the ferocious beast that was condensing spiritual pressure, Dustless asked curiously, I heard that every Kenpachi Gui Yenching's spiritual pressure is one of the best among the captains. At least you are knowledgeable. This is my strength when I'm at my peak. Just based on the amount of spiritual pressure, I am indeed one of the best in Soul Society. Kenpachi Gui Yenching was extremely pleased with Dustless's flattery. He laughed complacently and did not care about the disgusted looks from the captains around him. Then he remembered how Dustless exposed him and sneered, Don't think that I will forgive you just because you said something nice. No, you misunderstood me. Dustless shook his head like a rattledrum and then said bluntly, The spiritual pressure just now, I thought you were suppressing your strength to the level of a vice captain. I didn't expect it to be your full strength. Chapter 949. These words instantly ignited the powder keg that was Ghost Yenching. Whoosh. An afterimage flashed out and then Ghost Yenching disappeared like a ghost. Boom boom boom. There was a fierce wave of power behind him and a fist with the weight of Mount Tai came crashing down. Ghost Yenching's face was full of contempt. Dustless was like a statue standing motionless in the same place, unaware of his existence. He immediately remembered the head captain's warning, and he could not help but lower his strength. If you ignore the head captain's order, you will not be able to bear the consequences. Boom. The air trembled violently and a visible ripple appeared in the void. Bastard, it hurts. A painful scream came into everyone's ears, and when they looked closely, they saw that Ghost Yenching's huge fist was red and swollen, as if he had hit a meteorite. Not only did he not hurt Dustless, but he himself was in a mess. Even the bones that formed the pinky finger were shattered and annihilated. What's going on? All the captains were shocked. Ghost Yenching's red and swollen fist was obviously not fake, and the problem naturally came from Dustless's body. It seems like he used the hardness of his body to defend. But how can his body be so hard? Her eyes were filled with shock. Unohana Retsu's chest heaved up and down, and her tone was raised a lot. How hard does his body have to be to defend against the head captain's fist with just his body, and even injure the opponent? Unohana Retsu felt that it was unbelievable. This is Ghost Yenching's carelessness. He is always so childish and useless. The head captain looked at Dustless and then said calmly, "It's impossible for a fist as weak as yours to hurt me." Turning around, Dustless said expressionlessly, "Even if he was now in a soul state, everything in the past including armament hockey, observation hockey, devil fruit and many ninjutsu, he could use them all. Brat, even if you're getting carried away, you should know when to stop." Ghost Yanqing's eyes were bloodshot, and then his body's spiritual pressure surged, and the spiritual pressure soared into the sky, and a fatal deterrence followed. His body felt as if it was carrying a mountain that weighed over 1,000 jin. It was difficult for him to even breathe or move an inch. The coarse hand condensed a blazing flame, and the temperature instantly increased by dozens of times. The small fireball in Ghost Yanqing's hand also turned into a huge fireball. Dao Breaker 31, Red Cannon. The fireball that Yanqing condensed in Saber 8's hand stood out, leaving a crimson afterimage in its wake. The fire was even bigger than Dustless himself. This kind of flame used for illumination. Do you think it's really suitable for battle? Helplessly shaking his head, Dustless sighed. He completely ignored the deterrence of the spiritual pressure and unsheathed the first-generation ghost blade. A cold light pierced through the incoming fireball. Poochie! The powerful fireball instantly split into two, passing by Dustless on both sides. "This kid is weird." The captain of the 5th Division, Sosuke Aizen, was puzzled. Of course, it was not in terms of strength. Dustless's weak strength was not worth mentioning in his eyes. To Aizen's surprise, Dustless was calm and composed. He was like a veteran who'd been through hundreds of battles and wasn't afraid at all. Bastard. Ghost Yanqing's eyes emitted a sinister red light. After exchanging 2 blows, Dustless came out unscathed, but his hand was broken. Just the thought of it made him angry and resentful. Even the captains around him were looking at him differently. Contempt and disdain were clearly visible. He was embarrassed by a nobody. Even if his face was as thick as a city wall, he couldn't stand it. Hum hum hum. A sharp, ear-piercing sound of thunder suddenly rang out. They could feel a faint burning pain on their skin. Ghost Yanqing's Sword 8 had actually condensed a huge lightning bolt in his palm. This blockhead seems to be very familiar with Kido. Dustless was quite surprised. Compared to his successor Zaraki Kenpachi, this guy was a genius. Zaraki Kenpachi doesn't know Kido. Hado 63 Thunder Roar Cannon. A straight beam of light whistled and the deafening roar made people's ears feel stuffy. It left an afterimage in the sky, like a golden spear piercing through the air. "This is against the rules, head captain." The captains looked at the head captain in unison. The previous agreement was to maintain the strength of the vice captain. Although the Hado 63 Thunder could be used by the vice captain, Ghost Yanqing's current strength was far beyond the vice captain's. "Rules are dead, people are alive. The rules we set are effective. Hueco Mundo has been peaceful for a long time." Yamamoto's old voice was filled with endless vicissitudes of life. Moreover, judging from Wu Chen's calm and composed performance, their anxiousness was completely superfluous. Strange, what did that kid called Dustless do? A surprised exclamation pulled everyone's thoughts back. Looking up, the golden lightning was burning with dark flames, corroding Ghost Yanqing's Hado at a speed visible to the naked eye. When it came into contact with Dustless, the power contained in the flash was almost negligible. Not to mention Dustless, even a normal human couldn't hurt it. Huff. A hot breath came out of Dustless's mouth, and the roaring flash disappeared with the wind. Chapter 950. Dustless was hoping that Kenpachi Ghost Yanqing would give up, but he did not expect that it would ignite his anger instead. What an untactful person. Under the unprecedented anger, Ghost Yanqing's spiritual pressure, which could be said to be limitless, finally stopped holding back. His whole body was like a blazing furnace, trembling with anger. The scorching temperature even wanted to vaporize Dustless's arm. Not only that, even the Lingzi floating in the air started to burn, igniting the surrounding sky in an instant. An angry beast is indeed dangerous, but speaking of which, is he going to use Bankai? Dustless looked expectantly at Kenpachi Ghost Yanqing, who was emitting danger signals all over his body. Instead of being afraid, he was happy. He was very interested in the Shurkai and Bankai of the Shinigami. However, Dustless's hope was destined to fail this time. In some aspects, Kenpachi Ghost Yanqing was very similar to his successor Zaraki Kenpachi. He did not seem to know Shirkai and Bankai. Suddenly he realized that a cold light was falling from the sky. Dustless subconsciously raised his head and his pupils suddenly shrank. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Intersecting black lights of unknown origin fell from the sky. There were only a few of them, but no one dared to underestimate them. Some of the captains even felt that they were too close, and they all distanced themselves from the center of the area. Ignoring Dustless, who was a little stunned, Kenpachi Ghost Yenching bit his lips and said a few forbidden words. 90 of Breaking Tao. Black Coffin. A few simple words came out from his throat as if it was filled with endless magic. It supported the power of the black lights, and a dark and horrifying purple light pulsated. Under everyone's observation, the purple light became real. The moment it landed, it turned into a huge black coffin. The attack range was huge and Dustless was also affected. Puchi. Puchi. In the dark environment, thousands of invisible blades attacked. In just a few seconds, Dustless's body was shredded thousands of times. This kind of boring, useless attack, how long are you going to use it for? A long sigh echoed through the dark space. It was hard to imagine that there were creatures that could survive in such a dense environment. Dustless's body was emitting light, completely ignoring the shadow blades attacking him. Every time his body was damaged, it would be repaired by the glint fruit. This cycle continued endlessly. About a few minutes later, Dustless finally lost his patience as he felt the endless shadowless blades attacking him from all directions. He lifted his right foot off the ground and the whole calf was covered by the golden liquid. Then he mercilessly kicked the dark coffin wall. Lightspeed kick. The black coffin shook fiercely under the impact, and then there was a vibration of caw-caw-caw. Irregular cracks spread out. Through the weak gaps, Dustless could see the outside world clearly. Boom boom boom. After struggling for a few seconds, the godlike number 90 Dao breaker collapsed and turned into snow-like fragments. Gulp. Ghost Yenching grunted as his pupils widened. Suddenly a flash of light shot towards him. Sensing the danger, Ghost Yenching and Saber 8 retreated. Binding path number 61, 6-rod light prison. 6 rays of light attacked from all directions like tracking missiles. Dustless, who was rushing over, was subdued by him. He couldn't move his body and couldn't move at all. Phew. Ghost Yenching heaved a sigh of relief. His entire body felt lighter. However, before he could catch his breath, a cracking sound made his heart jump to his throat. Crack. Without any complicated skills, Dustless took a slight step forward. The 6 light pieces instantly collapsed and disappeared with the wind. Lightspeed kick. The light came straight at him at an extremely fast speed. Ghost Yenching responded immediately, forcibly using the remaining spiritual pressure in his body. A triangular defensive formation faintly flashed. Binding path number 73, Mountain Toppling Crystal. The triangular cone-shaped defensive space was formed. It was airtight, shiny, and looked as hard as diamond. Protected Ghost Yenching, who was hit hard. It collided head-on with the lightspeed kick. Crack crack crack. The huge transparent crystal trembled violently and thumb-sized cracks appeared. In the end, it couldn't withstand the powerful force and turned into nothingness. Ghost Yenching became a fat lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Boom boom boom. The blue sky was dominated by crimson. A large flaming mushroom cloud floated in the sky for a long time. Below the ground, Ghost Yencheng's body was charred. His breath was weak and he was unconscious. He was barely hanging on to life. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Several figures appeared next to Ghost Yenching without warning. They were all wearing the captain's feather. Looking at the miserable Ghost Yenching, they felt like they were going to get rid of him. Although Ghost Yenching was in the wrong for breaking the agreement, beating him like this was equivalent to slapping Soul Society in the face. Captain Unohana. Yamamoto's old eyes glanced at Unohana Retsu. Yamamoto's decision to hand over the half-dead Ghost Yenching to him was completely his own doing. He couldn't blame anyone else. Unohana Retsu was also an old antique who had lived for thousands of years. She naturally understood the meaning of this shallow sentence. Suddenly, a strange creature floated out from behind her and swallowed Ghost Yenching. At the same time, Dustless was also surrounded by the 2nd Division's Xingjun. He definitely wouldn't choose to be captured. Just as he was about to force his way out, the head captain's words made all the captains, including Dustless himself, confused. Chapter 951. Yamamoto was an old monster who had lived for over 1,000 years. Not only was his strength extraordinary, he was also quite intelligent. He stared at Dustless's skinny body with a sharp glint in his eyes. "Young man, are you interested in joining the Gotii 13? All the captains looked at Dustless. Soul Society could not turn a blind eye to such a person. Joining the Gotii 13 was a must. If he refused, he would probably be punished by the head captain. Of course. A smile appeared on Dustless's face as he accepted. He indeed needed a suitable identity to end the awkwardness of being a vagabond. That would be for the best. The head captain nodded his head in satisfaction. Soon after, he calmly said, "Which division do you intend to join? Based on your strength, any division is extremely suitable." The old man is really biased. Xianxia stood out and complained, but the head captain glared at him and said, "Based on your strength, this old man suggests you join the 11th division. Hearing this, Dustless rejected old man Yamamoto's suggestion without even thinking. A cunning thought appeared in his mind. "I choose to join the head captain's 1st division." These words caused all the captains to be shocked. This was obviously walking right into the trap. This kid. Is this an accident? It doesn't seem like it. Unohana Retsu frowned as she looked at Dustless. Her heart was filled with suspicion. She had a feeling that Dustless was taking a step back in order to advance. After working together for over 1,000 years, Unohana Retsu understood the head captain's personality. He would not tolerate even the slightest mistake. If Dustless chose to join another division, old man Yamamoto would definitely force Dustless to join the 1st division. Now that Dustless took the initiative to join the 1st division, old man Yamamoto's heart was moved. "This old man appreciates your kindness, but the 1st division is not suitable for you." As expected, just as Unohana Retsu thought, old man Yamamoto directly rejected Dustless. He looked deeply at Dustless before finally looking at Xianxia Okatake and the others. In the end, his gaze landed on Unohana Retsu. "Captain Uno Flower. Your 4th division doesn't have a suitable vice captain. Let him be the captain. Although the 4th division is a medical team, it's inevitable that there will be accidents. A strong vice captain is also needed. This is the most suitable combination." Old man Yamamoto made the final decision, leaving no room for anyone to refute. "Yuanluzhai, that fellow, forget it." Unohana shook her head and smiled bitterly. Then she walked towards Dustless with graceful steps. She politely extended her arms and revealed her snow-white wrists. "Please take care of me in the future, Lord Qin." Unohana revealed a gentle smile. It was very charming and made people feel relaxed, like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Plans can't keep up with changes. Dustless felt a strange feeling in his heart. He naturally knew what the head captain meant. Rather than saying that he was the vice captain, it was more like having Unohana monitor him. After all, Unohana was absolutely loyal to the world and her strength was unquestionable. As the first Sword 8, she could be considered an invincible existence. "Please take care of me, Captain Unohana." Dustless politely extended his arm and smiled. The two of them shook hands in a friendly manner under the gaze of all the captains. The soft touch between the 5 fingers made Wuqian's heart flutter and his mind agitated. "Lord Qin." Unohana reminded Dustless when she saw that he was distracted. Hearing this, Dustless felt awkward. He instinctively let go of Unohana's hand and smiled embarrassedly. He quickly changed the topic and asked in confusion, "Shouldn't the captain of the 4th division be Yuin Toru?" Unohana looked at Dustless in confusion and explained, "Yuin is currently only a 3rd seat. With her strength, she's not qualified for the vice captain position." Dustless's eyes flashed with understanding. He could not help but sigh in his heart. "I thought that by showing off a little bit of my strength I could get a captain to play with." Thinking about the cunning Yamamoto Ryuchugoku, Dustless knew that his plan had failed. Soul Society would not find someone of unknown origin to be a captain. "Congratulations." Xianxia and the other captains came to express their gratitude. Dustless also forced a smile and greeted them one by one. He only returned to the 4th division with Unohana in the evening. Soul Society was very efficient. At the very least, the 4th division was so. After hearing that there was a new vice captain, they quickly tidied up a clean courtyard. Although it was not luxurious, it was clean and simple. It was suitable for self-cultivation. Dustless also felt very tired after the fight with Yanqing and Saber 8 during the day. After taking a casual shower, he was about to go to sleep when the unexpected sound of footsteps chased away his sleepiness and made him full of energy. Something big must have happened for a late-night visit. In the reception hall, Hua Lai and a graceful woman could be clearly seen. This elegant and mysterious woman was extremely beautiful. She exuded a seductive aura. She had long black hair that was parted to the side. She wore a complicated golden hair ornament and a white cloak with a buckle. Her appearance was beautiful. It's her. After looking at the symbol of the 4th division behind the mysterious woman and confirming that he did not see wrongly, Dustless's calm eyes rippled. He activated high-density chakra all over his body in case of any accidents. The 0 Division's code name, Oishi Mamoru, Shudora Thousand Hands Maru, was definitely not looking for Dustless with good intentions. Chapter 952. Which captain is this? She looks unfamiliar. Dustless walked up with a smile on his face as if he had never met her before. Thinking about Shidoro's sensei identity, Unohana Retsu hesitated for a few seconds before smiling. She's a close friend of mine, Shidoro's sensei. She only gave a simple introduction of her name and did not mention anything else. Dustless's eyes widened as he pretended to be surprised. I didn't expect Soul Society to have other captains other than the Gotei 13. His sparkling eyes fell on the graceful Shidoro Thousand Hands Maru. Dustless said meaningfully, the Soul Society is really a... Why do you have so much to say? Take off your clothes and stop wasting my time. Shout Oro Senju interrupted Dustless as he shouted impatiently. At the same time the skeletal arm behind him reached out to grab Dustless. He thought he could easily grab Dustless since he was just a rookie vice captain. However, the reality was the complete opposite. What kind of technique is this? Is it the path of ghosts? It doesn't seem like it. It's more like some unknown mysterious ability. Shout Oro Senju analyzed in surprise. His cold face relaxed as he showed a hint of interest. He thought Dustless was just an ordinary vice captain, but it seemed like he had some skills. Dustless's body glowed with a warm light as he used elementization to ignore the skeletal arm. You're quite strong to be able to defeat Ghost Yanqing. Shout Oro Senju's tone was no longer as cold as before. At least, Dustless felt like he was talking to someone. As a death god, you must have the Death Tyrant outfit. When an ordinary person becomes a death god, they will be born with it. However, you are an exception. Take off all of your clothes and let me make it for you. The size must be reasonable and there must not be any mistakes. Shidoro Thousand Hand Maru said seriously. His words revealed a meticulous attitude. You're saying I have to take off all my clothes? Dustless asked suspiciously. Hearing that Shout Oro Senju's tone was not hostile, Dustless relaxed. He looked at Unohana Retsu and she nodded her head in agreement. When helping others to sew up the Death Tyrant's armor, one needed to be of the right size. I'm not ready yet. Do you want to come back tomorrow? Looking at the bony arm behind Shidoro Thousand Hands Maru and her fervent gaze, Wuxia always had a feeling of being treated as a lab rat. She was also a mad scientist and her level was even higher than that perverted Cocoon Ray. You're a man, why are you being more shy than a woman? Wrinkling her eyebrows, Shidoro Thousand Hands Maru unhappily scolded. I don't even care, what do you have to say? Could it be that you are afraid that I will eat you? Hearing Shout Oro Senju's words, Dustless's face turned red. He had just taken a shower and was only wearing his pajamas. After being provoked by Shout Oro Senju, Dustless directly undid his belt. Ahem ahem ahem. Unohana Retsu's expression changed when she saw this. Looking at the blushing Dustless, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. She never thought that the vice captain she trusted so much would have such a childish side. There are still some things I need to take care of in the 4th division. Goodbye. Bowing slightly, Unohana Retsu left with an awkward expression. Really, someone who has lived for thousands of years is still so shy. The future of Soul Society is worrying. Seeing Unohana Retsu running away, Shout Oro Senju's body floated up and landed beside Dustless, circling around him. You're Dustless, right? Measuring the length of Dustless's arm, Shout Oro Senju's uninterested asked casually. Yes. Dustless answered honestly. At the same time, Shout Oro Senju's hands were not idle. His skeletal hands were extremely nimble, sticking close to Dustless's body and carefully measuring his waist height and so on. Because he was so close, Dustless could even feel Shoutoro Senju's breathing. How torturous. Dustless bitterly smiled. His voice was as soft as a mosquito's, but it still fell into Shoutoro Senju's ears. You don't know what's good for you. There are so many people who want me to die, but they don't have the fortune. You don't know how lucky you are. At this moment, two tender white arms unexpectedly came out of his sleeves and took off Dustless's pajamas, exposing him completely naked in front of Shoutoro Senju's eyes. Seeing this, Dustless's mouth fiercely twitched. He was speechless. Looking up at Shoutoro Senju's eyes, he felt relieved. So she has hands too. His line of sight swept past the delicate white wrist of Shuro Senju Maru. Wuchen was too lazy to think more. Such a person who loved to dress up and love beauty, she couldn't be so crazy as to cut off her own arm. If it wasn't for this thing down there, people might have thought that you were a woman. Shoutoro Senju's perfect and charming face was moved. Dustless's skin was white and tender, as bright as a gem. It was very smooth, even purer than the skin of an ordinary girl. This woman. Dustless directly closed his eyes, suddenly feeling like he was a human specimen. However, the moment he closed his eyes, something unexpected happened.